I'll be out of service 55.
I think Sarah set this up, job security.
This is your prep time, chief.
Yeah, I could have used it too wisely.
It's showing its live stream, so you should be good to go.
You're showing us live right now, live stream?
There we go.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that.
All good, thank you.
You're-
Okay, so the first two citizen awards, the recipients couldn't make it. So I'm gonna do theirs first. They still deserve the recognition of me reading this to everyone. However, they either are out of the area or have prior commitments. So the first citizen award is Eric Kennedy. On June 25th, 2025, at approximately 7 p.m., an adult male was picking up supplies for his employer behind a local business. While the subject was loading sheets of steel into a flatbed trailer by himself, the decking under him gave way, causing the male to fall onto a piece of jagged 2x6. This caused a large penetrating wound into the man's upper thigh. The man miraculously pulled himself off the impalement, however, began to experience severe blood loss from a possible artery bleed. The injured man was able to get to the cab of his truck and call for help. However, he then observed another truck pull into the parking lot, which was driven by Eric Kennedy. Eric was checking on a cement job he had done for the business earlier in that day. The injured man began honking his horn repeatedly to get Kennedy's attention. Kennedy went over to the man's truck and immediately began applying intense direct pressure over the wound while helping the patient keep his leg elevated until help arrived. While Kennedy continued to maintain pressure on the wound, a responding public safety officer applied a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. The patient was then turned over to EMS for treatment and transported to McLaren Northern Michigan Hospital, where he successfully survived the event. For Mr. Kennedy's selfless actions on this day in which he potentially saved another man's life, he is hereby awarded a Citizens Award. Next is a Citizens Award recipient, Prudence Whistle, Karen DeHant, and Tamara Emmons. On July 8, 2025, at approximately 4:05 p.m., officers and EMS were dispatched to the bike path near Town Line Road for a report of a bicyclist down and CPR in progress. Upon arrival, medical staff observed the three ladies who I just mentioned performing CPR on the unresponsive patient. It was later learned that Prudence, Karen, and Tamara were biking when they came upon a bicyclist down. The three ladies acted promptly and proceeded to conduct CPR and call 911. This is a textbook response. EMS staff was able to regain the patient's pulse, and the subject was transported to the emergency room for advanced care. Unfortunately, the suspect passed several days later due to the cardiac event. However, the family was extremely thankful for the opportunity to save their goodbyes. For their efforts on this day, Prudence Whistle, Karen DeHart, and Tamara Emmons deserve recognition for their efforts and are hereby awarded a Citizens Award. Next Citizen Award is Tony Presley. Is Tony able to make it today? Come on forward here, sir. I'll stand up here. Okay. Okay. On May 5th, 2025, Mr. Presley was driving his infant daughter around in his vehicle waiting to pick up his wife from her shift at McLaren Hospital. Mr. Presley drove by Kaufman's Furniture Store and observed a male on the ground tangled up in his e-bike. Unbeknownst to Mr. Presley, Mr. Bradford Fleming had wanted to take an evening bike ride and had left his apartment riding toward Bay Harbor. Mr. Fleming struck a small concrete culvert and flipped over his handlebars, breaking his C3 vertebra, causing him to have paralysis. Mr. Fleming reported he had been in that spot for over 2 hours until Mr. Presley came by and summoned help. Mr. Presley stayed with Mr. Fleming until medical staff arrived, providing comfort and reassurance that help was on the way. Emmett EMS and Petoskey DPS officers arrived and took over medical care of Mr. Fleming. EMS protocol for a spinal emergency began on scene and continued at the McLaren Emergency Department. Mr. Fleming's care was transferred to a downstate hospital where he spent several months in rehab, learning to walk and care for himself again. Mr. Presley's alertness and actions on this night may just have saved Mr. Fleming's life. For this, Mr. Presley deserves recognition and is hereby awarded the Citizen Award. Next is a public safety commendation to Officer Frederick Hell. You don't get to stay in the back there. On September 17th, 2025, at approximately 11:42 a.m., officers were dispatched to McLaren Northern Michigan Hospital Emergency Department for a male patient that had damaged a room and was currently crawling around in the ceiling. Upon arrival, Officer Helk identified himself as a police officer and yelled for the patient to come down from the ceiling. The patient refused and began breaking through a drywall barrier in the ceiling and made his way further down the hallway. Officer Helk climbed up into the ceiling and began pursuing the male patient. Officer Helk had to navigate his way through a maze of water drainage piping, air handling ductwork, and power lines. Ultimately, Officer Helk was able to catch up to the patient who was now completely naked. The patient acknowledged that PSO Helk had obviously not going to give up his pursuits and made this decision to give up. The patient was assisted down a ladder, handcuffed, and returned to a more secure room within the emergency department. PSO Helk risked his own safety to resolve this rapidly evolving incident. For these actions, PSO Helk is awarded Public Safety Commendation. We are yet to send them a bill for the cleaning of the ductwork. This is a public safety commendation to PSO Hunter Arnold and PSO Alexis Steele. And I believe Officer Hunter might be, oh, is he? He's still on the call? Yeah. Okay, maybe we move to the next one and come right back to this one then. I'd like him to receive it. Sorry, Lexi. This is a life-saving award. Former Lieutenant Michael Parker, Cadet Kalen Metelski, EMS staff Kelvin Penfold, Joe Belling, Ben Slocum, and Aaron Maltby. On June 22nd, 2025, at approximately 9:20 p.m., officers were dispatched to a residence on Jefferson Street for a person not breathing. Upon arrival, the patient's wife directed the officers to the bedroom where the patient was found unresponsive. Officers immediately carried the patient to the floor and started CPR. An AED was applied and an iGel airway was inserted. Several shocks from the AED were delivered. A short time later, EMS crews arrived on scene and assisted with life-saving care. Due to the cooperation between public safety officers and Emmett EMS, the patient regained a pulse. The patient was transported to emergency department at McLaren Northern Michigan Hospital for advanced care. We were advised that later, after a short stay, the subject made a full recovery. For their combined efforts on this day, which resulted in a life spared, public safety staff and Emmett County EMS are awarded a Life Savings Award. We'll go back to the public safety commendation now that Officer Arnold made it. Back to Officer Hunter Arnold and Officer Alexis Steele. On June 5th, 2025, at approximately 5:29 PM, Officer Steele was dispatched to a driving complaint in the area of McDonald South. The reporting party witnessed a possible intoxicated driver in the area and provided a vehicle description. Officer Steele located the vehicle parked within the area and found two subjects standing outside the vehicle with the hatch up. Officer Steele made contact with the two subjects who behaved in a manner that raised Officer Steele's suspicion of narcotic use. Officer Arnold, who is a licensed drug recognition expert, arrived on scene and confirmed these suspicions as well. Consent to search the vehicle was provided by the vehicle owner, and officers ended up seizing more than $900 in cash along with 9 different types of controlled substances. These substances included LSD, cocaine, oxycodone, fentanyl, and Xanax, just to name a few. These officers utilized their training and experience to make one of the largest drug seizures in this department's history. For these efforts, PSO Arnold and Officer Steele are hereby awarded Public Safety Commendation. This is a life savings award to Lieutenant Matt Mikulski, Lieutenant William Bowen, and PSO Adam Klimza. It wasn't a foot pursuit. On March 19, 2025, at approximately 1:32 PM, officers were dispatched to an address on Emmett Street for a report of a male believed to be unresponsive in the bathroom. Upon arrival, Lieutenant Bowen attempted verbal contact with the male through the door, however, was unsuccessful. Lieutenant Bowen forcefully removed the door from its hinges and found the patient unresponsive and not breathing. Lieutenant Bowen observed drug paraphernalia which included an uncapped needle located in the vicinity of the patient. 1 dose of naloxone nasal spray was administered. Bag valve mask was utilized in order to assist the patient's respiration function. Short time later, the patient regained consciousness and became alert and oriented. The patient was then transported to McLaren Northern Michigan Emergency Department for advanced care. The swift actions of Lieutenant Bowen and the teamwork amongst officers provided a favorable outcome for this patient. For these actions, Lieutenant Mikulski, Lieutenant Bowen, and PSO Adam Klimza are hereby awarded a Life Savings Award. This should take the bulk of it. Okay, this is a public safety citation for Lieutenant David Schultz, Officer Adam Klimza, Firefighter Cameron Wise, Lieutenant Fuller Cowell, Sergeant Cole Brady, Sergeant Alex Babcock, Deputy Jesse Shaw. Come on up when you hear your name. Corrections Officer Noah Goziak, Deputy Mark Hazen, Trooper Patrick Harrington, Tribal Officer Jake Gerhardt. For this large group, it had to be a large incident. On March 30, 2025, at approximately 11:04 PM, officers received information that McLaren Northern Michigan Hospital generator had failed due to a faulty fuel valve, and doctors and nurses were attempted to care for patients on limited battery power. Officers began compiling a plan to provide temporary power until the generator could be restored. Officers jumped into action by rounding up supplies such as flashlights, handheld radios, and generators. Meanwhile, the MSP officers responded to Walmart and demanded the employees open the doors so they could purchase extension cords with their own funds. Other officers keyed into our city DPW to grab other necessary supplies to provide power. Several generators were located by local officers to which the nurses placed outside the ICU. The generators were used to power the machines necessary to keep patients alive. Knowing there might be a delay in power, officers began calling off-duty personnel to respond from their home in case more hands were needed for life-saving efforts. Eventually, 100 gallons of fuel, which was meant for the city of Petoskey's wastewater plant generators, was rerouted to the hospital in order to restore the generator. While officers and hospital staff worked with their iPhone flashlights to provide patient care, power was ultimately restored through the generator fuel supply. The quick actions taken by these officers during these emergent, out-of-the-ordinary circumstances deserve recognition. For their outstanding efforts and teamwork on this night, these officers are awarded Public Safety Citation. Okay, we have one award remaining, and this is the Mayor's Award.
In late March 2025, Northern Michigan was forced to endure what most people call the 100-year storm. All of Emmett County and several of the other surrounding communities were affected by this terrible ice storm that was really severe, where trees were toppled, power lines were sheared, damaging our power grid, meaning travel was virtually impossible as well. This particular severe event came without warning and without bias. Everyone in the area was affected for this extremely extended time, and there were several weeks that some in Emmett County were without power. This was a community leader's biggest, worst nightmare. Concerns of warmth, food, and limited communications were suddenly a reality. While electric crews, police officers, hospital staff, and EMS were dealing with the emergency side of this, city
And that concludes 2025's Meritus Awards. Thank you all for coming. It really means a lot for us to give some recognition to people that don't get it all the time. I mean, I feel like I could fill this desk up here with awards for the good work that we see from our EMS and as well as our officers on a daily. So thank you again. And unless you want to stay for my presentation afterwards, you are excused.
I know I speak for city council in thanking to all of the officers, both county, city, EMS, state troopers. We all five of us, I know, and speaking for the staff as well, say thank you from the citizens of Petoskey for doing such a great job, going above and beyond many times to make sure we have, of all things, safety and good health. So thank you very much, you guys. Brad, how are you? I see that. We're happy for you. We're happy for you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Appreciate it, Sheriff. Thank you.
How you doing?
Bye, man.
Tribal police.
Huh?
We forgot tribal police.
The who?
Forgot tribal police.
Tribal.
Oh, tribal too. Okay, tribal.
Okay. Actually,
Okay. Well,
Rocky.
You could say LTPP too.
you know, these people are here for me to fight for us. Fight for us.
There's 33 people in there.
Fight for us.
oh, there's 37 people.
That's a lot. No problem.
Yes.
Next, we're going to hear a presentation from Public Safety Director Rocky Carr once again, and this is concerning the department's 2025 annual report.
This is the color one.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't it? Not that I'm not paying figure this out. I like color. It's just.
Oh, Rocky.
Been in the blue sprouts.
Just longer than last year's.
Hold on.
Okay, are you ready for me? Shane? That's the first, yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jody.
So the first slide is, just gonna highlight a few things here. First slide is the new officers. We did hire 2 new officers this year. Charlie Ramirez, he joined us, he was 14 months with, City of Charlevoix. He's from Petoskey.
On with this. You wanted this?
I don't know if I want that from you. I think
Be going on its own here, but.
if you, okay. Regardless, Charlie, he's from Petoskey. Matter of fact, I coached him in his early years in football. Great addition to our crew here in Petoskey. Also, Officer Kimball. we had originally hired Officer Kimball in the summer of 2019. And he has he worked for us for just under 3 years. And then he worked part-time for us out at the Bay Harbor Station for the remainder, the 4 years in between us hiring him back. He did want to pursue his master's and had some other things that he needed time to study. And ultimately, he chose the career path to come back to us. So we had an opening. As the next slide shows, we had retirements. So Lieutenant Troxel retired in July, and Lieutenant Michael Parker also retired at the end of the year. So we were kind of able to seamlessly transition personnel, so we didn't feel the hurt too much with replacements. So and with retirements come promotions. So we had 2 lieutenants that retired. So we promoted Lieutenant Scott Lamont, and we also promoted Lieutenant William Bowen. Next slide. I think it should be cross deputization. That's right. This is great. So we did a cross deputization with Traverse Bay Band of Tribal or Chippewa Indians. So I should say Little Traverse Bay Band Tribal Police is who we cross deputized with. So we deputized them here to be in the city so they can have jurisdiction to assist us with response to calls. And they also deputized us on tribal land. Same thing. If they are out of the area, we can assist them responding to their locations and to try and hold things down. We are obviously not looking to take over anybody's jurisdiction. We're just trying to speed up response times. So we were also deputized as throughout Emmett County as well. So there's no pictures of that, but each of us went into the sheriff's office and were sworn in as Emmett County deputies for the exact same reasons. If Emmett County is outside, they have a large area to cover with very few personnel, and sometimes we can slide out to their locations and try and make sure things are safe prior to their arrival. So that was our mindset with cross deputizations. Next, I believe, is law enforcement calls for service, possibly. And this just shows in Bay Harbor, we had 471 law enforcement calls for service, in Petoskey 8,686, and a total of 9,157 calls for service. And there's just another indicator there. We handled 9,157 requests for service. This is a decrease from 2024, which was our highest ever of 307 is what we decreased from. We logged nearly 5,000 complaint numbers, which is a decrease of 3,205. And I think if you remember last year, I advised that there would be a decrease in the numbers that we pulled because we are now just pulling numbers for when officers take action on things. So if we make a traffic stop, we're not pulling a number for a traffic stop. If we make a traffic stop and make an arrest, or we write a ticket, or we take some type of action, then we're pulling a number for it. If we respond to a residence and it's a simple, say, suspicious incident or something like that, where we don't take any action, or there isn't anything like resolved from it, then we're not pulling a number for it. So and when officers are pulling numbers now, they're making their own entries. Before, Gina would make an entry on every single thing that we did, which was a kind of a waste of her time, because we can still track all the actions by calls for service. So now going off of report numbers isn't really accurate. Going off of calls for service moving forward will be. We had 337 total arrests, 96 felony arrests, 241 misdemeanor arrests. The next should be a list of all of our activity. Shane, if you can find that slide, it's kind of orange-ish with a whole bunch of data on it. And it's so small that I can hardly see it.
What I had up there. That way.
It's basically our police-related calls for service, and I noted just a few things on there. Animal complaints, we were up nearly 100 animal complaints in the city, and we were up 15 as there was only one in Bay Harbor in year 2024. Attempt suicides was way up. Had 29 attempt suicides or suicide successful in 2025, and we only had one in 2024. Our disturbance or disorderlies were, we had 110 of them, which was up 24 from 2024. Larcenies, for some reason, was way up too. It almost doubled. We had a lot of larcenies in 2025. Mental health is a big one. We had 102 in 2024, and we had 152 in 2025 of mental health issues. And the last that I noted was traffic stops. We made a lot of traffic stops in 2024, but we made 500 more in 2025. And if you wish to see the 2025, so my office administrator is out on pregnancy leave, and my officer Peacock, who is on light duty, is pregnant. So she took over the tasks of, and I owe her a ton of credit for PowerPoints and this annual report, because this is not her comfort zone. We thought that Ms. Ellenberger was going to be back to assist with this, and she dove in headfirst and put all this together. However, some of the data does not match up to 2024's because it was a different way of compiling them. So if you can go into some of these in 2024 and see, like, domestic violences and assaults were combined. So if you do want to compare those in 2024, I can provide you those numbers. There are in the annual report on our website, but I can tell you where the discrepancies are. If there's a large one, it's because of how the data was compiled. So no fault to her. She's just doing what she thought was best. Next slide is the detective's position. Basically, he was very busy. Investigated 75 total original complaints, wrote 79 supplements, drafted 25 search warrants. He was extremely busy and also had surgery on his knee. So the next should be code enforcement. This just kind of is a little bit of a breakdown on Tony's numbers. Officer Belmonte, a total of 289 ordinance violations, to which 24 citations were issued. A lot of the citations he dismisses for compliance. Once they comply, or if they go to court and they have fixed their issues, he dismisses the citations. We're not looking to make a bunch of money off of this. We're just looking for compliance. Compared to 2024, there was a decrease of 125 violations. And much of this is due to Officer Belmonte's proactive diligence of spreading awareness and education to the public. And it also has to do with the time that he spends on these larger IPMC cases as well, because much of them go to litigation. I will say this, Tony probably has logged more court time in the last 2 years than many of our officers have, just with citations and what is moving forward with a lot of these larger cases. The International Property Maintenance Code, this just shows some of the things that he has been able to address. You can, there's been some mold issues, and these are some of the before and after. A lot of the living conditions, people will, as they are moving out, say, hey, I'm moving out because we have to have a reason to come check these locations out. And Tony does a great job of follow-up and working with the county inspectors and whatnot in order to get compliance. And there's just another picture of some of the things that are reported to him and that he sees gets taken care of. Blight issues, structural issues. Next slide should be community engagement. So we have a ton of community engagement. I put a couple photos in there. We had National Fire Prevention Week, the ice storm. We did go door to door during the ice storm, checking on our residents. Alice is our officers attended, presented Alice-based training to all the school staff and students. I believe the next page is just some more highlights of some of the things that we did throughout the year. I was the keynote speaker for the middle school. I do that again next week. We led all the parades, passed out candy for all the Halloween events. I mean, just about anything that we're asked to do or participate in, officers seem to find time in their schedules to try and do it. They see the importance of the community being engaged with us and seeing us on a face-to-face level versus standing outside their window on a traffic stop. So we try to do as much outreach as we can and invite them into our building as much as we can as well. And the next slide is some of those engagements. There we are up for National Fire Prevention on the left. We played baseball with the Challengers. The next picture is the parade. We also set our truck up for the Shoreline Bike Ride, which is a bike ride done by officers from around the state that recognize the fallen. And there's Officer Carlson reading to the children and us giving some tours. And normally all the schools want tours around the same time near the end of the year. I think we definitely pack the schedule with school tours near the end of the year. Next slide is the Citizens Academy. We had a great group again this year for the Citizens Academy. And we taught on the same topics: criminal law, interviews, interrogation, investigation, firearms. We did the simulator for the firearms, crime scene processing. You can see up in the aerial on the picture to the right, we got to break some windows on some cars and cut into them. We just had a group that was very interested in what we did, and we encourage those that want to be part of it. It's free. It's every Wednesday for about 7 weeks, and it's a new topic every time. It started out at 3 hours. We've dialed that back to about 2.5 hours, but that seems like a long time, but it goes by so fast when you're there because we're trying to cram so much information into all the presentations. So it's a great opportunity to interact with the public. Next is the open house. And we've, for once, had really good weather at the open house, which was a blast. And if you have never made it to the open house, I would encourage it. We have cooperation from just about every entity in the area. A lot of them are listed there, but there's plenty to do for the kids and the adults and kids at heart, really. I can still never take my eyes off that helicopter when it comes in and departs. Except for the one year where there was a lot of the mayfly hatch. I don't know if you were there for that, but you didn't have to eat the hot dogs after. The next should be ACE.
Yay.
Yes. Going along with the theme of our outreach, ACE is a big part of this. And he's a school therapy dog that we got in 2025. He's a Labrador Retriever. He sheds like crazy, but boy, does everybody love him. And he's been a great addition to our department and what we can provide. And, you know, he's now eligible to go to assisted care homes to visit residents as well. So the next picture should be some of the pictures of Ace, I believe. Yes. So that's Officer Donovan up on the left there with obviously Ace kind of makes his way around the middle school and the high school, and him at a assisted care facility visiting patients. All right. Training. We do a ton of training. And if you've read the report, it's a little bit more detailed on the training, but these are just a few of the highlights of the training that we did in 2025. Advanced roadside interviewing techniques, SEPLA for schools. Defensive tactics. We have an instructor here that has trained the trainer, so Officer Dutch teaches us the defensive tactics, and we try not to get hurt doing that. Haven't done so well as of late, but we also anti-bias, child forensic interviewing, read techniques for interviewing and interrogation. That is an amazing school. It's very expensive. However, it has to deal with body language and people being truthful and where they look, if they're trying to remember something versus trying to think up a lie. It was amazing. It was very helpful raising kids. Let's see. Firefighting, we had Courage to Be Safe, hazmat training, and the North Central Michigan College did let us borrow their simulator, so we were able to do some training on that as well. Let's see. Some other interesting training. We hadn't done ice rescue training in a long period of time. Matter of fact, I don't think I have done it in the 21 years that I've served here. So us being right here on the bay it was a no-brainer for us to do some training. So we got with the Emmett County Dive Team, cut a hole in the ice, and off we go. And it was just some great training. The middle one there is, I did this training in Southern Michigan before I came up here, and I thought it was important for officers to trust their gear because you can fall in a body of water around here if you're doing marina fires or even on pools. I found myself standing on a pool cover in the middle of winter, and I had no idea that I was on a pool cover. So knowing that your equipment is buoyant enough to keep you afloat is just peace of mind. So we were able to basically jump in the water with all your turnout gear. You capture a bubble of air under your helmet, try and keep your boots up in the air, and you can stay afloat for an extended period of time, close to 15 minutes. And believe it or not, with your SCBA on, you can go underwater. It's pretty amazing. I wouldn't go diving with it, but I mean, you can just kick around. We had a great time, like a bunch of kids out there at the boat launch. So, and then we also do some serious practical training. Had the amazing opportunity, as it says in that slide, somebody was demolishing a house who allowed us to go in and smoke it up and simulate fire operations, which was very good practical training for our crew. And I think the next slide, I kind of went over this already. It was just basically our call volume, calls for service. Fire and EMS, 949 calls for service. There should be one more slide that I just like the picture of because we do a great job maintaining what we are provided by the city. And these are two of our response truck on the right and one of our ladder trucks on the left. And this is taken out at our Bay Harbor station. And the last is just to thank you. And I wonder if you have any questions for me.
First of all, I am just so impressed, and I think our number one job is public safety, and You do a great job. Your attitude is great. I just love the whole presentation. I love everything you do. I really do.
Thank you.
I just generally, as you look at year over year and the trends and all the things that are happening that you're being called for, are you seeing any kind of trends, any kind of things that bring you a little bit of concern that we should be getting ahead of, either by providing some more training, some resources, or anything that you're seeing that council should be trying to be a little bit proactive because times are changing or something's changing that we need to do?
I'm getting to the point, I'm concerned for our level of manpower. Right now, we have, I'll just run you through real quick. We have 20 officers. So we have 20 officers, you take 4 out of that, myself, the detective, and our 2 school resource officers. So now you're down to 16. 2 of the 16, 1 is hurt and 1 is pregnant. So that gives us 14. So now we're running bare minimum on 2 shifts and only 4 officers on the other 2 shifts. So if anybody wants a vacation time on any of those 2 shifts, it calls overtime. If I send anybody to training on any of the shifts and somebody wants a day off, it's overtime. We're getting to the point where, I mean, you guys have done a great job with housing and expansion around the city is happening, and our population is rising, yet my concern is, can we keep up with it? Our call volume is close to, over 9,000 a year complaints. It used to be 7,000 with the same amount of manpower. And then I take an officer away because I think I put them up at the middle school because I see the need for us to have presence at the schools. And maybe that talks to some of the trends that you're speaking of. Like when I started, that was never even a forethought that we would have to have officers in schools. And things have changed. And now we have 2 officers in the schools and we have the same amount of manpower trying to deal with the daily. And we're maintaining right now, but when the summer comes, now you're talking about things that you can't see on paper. You're talking about burnout. You're talking about officers having to switch from days to nights to cover shifts because we don't have personnel, or you're ordering people in to try and work overtime shifts because we don't have them covered. So, I guess part of this is on me for not noticing this sooner. I should have, in 2024, brought this to you and budgeted accordingly for 2025 or 2026. Because what I'd like to see, my goal would be in 2027 to have 2 more officers. That way, in the summertime, I would have 5 officers per shift. So if 2 officers wanted a vacation day on the same day, doesn't cause overtime. It's not an issue. If we want to send people to training, I don't have to worry about the schedule being covered. And right now, I can't move people from a shift to cover any overtime. I can't save the city any money by moving people around because I don't have the people to do it. So, and I get it. It's a special set of circumstances because I'm down 2 officers. One is pregnant and the other had surgery on his knee. But as long as I've been here, there's always been somebody off. There's always been somebody hurt. There's always been somebody on some type of disability. So a long answer, I guess, to your question. My concern is, are we keeping up with manpower with what's being built around us? We're seeing a ton of people moving to the area. We're seeing a ton of housing, and not just in the city, it's going up around us. The tribe's building housing units. There's housing units north of us. Sure, that's not in the city, but it impacts us. So especially now, that we're trying to spread out and help the county and things like that. We're doing what we can with what we have, I guess. So that would be my biggest concern is manpower.
Thank you.
Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Adrian. That was a wonderful presentation. Of course, yes, public safety is our #1 priority in the city of Petoskey, and budgetarily, it's always allotted accordingly as well. So don't be too hard on yourselves in terms of budgetarily planning for 2026, now that you've given voice to the fact that you are understaffed, and we can duly noted here on city council in terms of planning for the projected future. So do you feel like part of that formula is also attraction and retention of current staff for public safety? And is there things that could be done both like by increasing the budget here for projected future years, as well as like in the negotiations with your union, making sure like paid family leave is part of it, or something beyond like the sick leave and the medical leave that we're all allotted as union workers, but like making sure that we have family leave and maternity and paternity leave as part of that to attract new young officers to this area with really good benefit packages. So do you see any?
I think the city has done a great job with benefit packages to already catch the eye of people who are looking, even if they have 5 or 6 years under their belts already. Petoskey is a destination for a lot of officers. The issue is housing. I mean, our last 3 officers are Alanson, Indian River. It's hard to get officers to get housing in this area. I mean, you hear it from everybody, you know, so especially if you're starting at a lower officer wage, I mean, even if you're getting a rental unit, the rental units are, you know, some $1,500, $2,000 or somewhere in there. So it's very difficult, the housing portion, which is kind of the other push to try and have more officers on shift, because now we're responding from longer distances for fire callouts and things like that, because it's that time that it takes for officers to get to this location. So, you know, I don't want to throw a whole bunch of stuff at you. I mean, we have a bunch of officers who want to work here. In regards to retention, I think there's only one officer that, 1 or 2, on one hand anyway, that have left prior to retirement that I've been here. I mean, once you are here and you've taken a little bit of what Petoskey has to offer, normally it's a career, we keep everybody. So at least we do our best to.
So for next year, budgeting for 22 officers instead of 20.
What I would, I mean, if I've put my wish list out there, I would like to have one in June of this year and then one on next year would be ideal. That way, when we get into the summer months, we would have more help. And then by 2027, into 2027, bring on another officer, have them trained, and then when you're talking public safety, it's a good 2 years to train somebody because of fire and EMS in order to get your fire certification as well as your EMS certification. So we do those in 2 separate years.
So 25? 25 a better number?
25 officers?
Yeah.
Yeah, send them.
Budgetarily.
No.
Duly noted.
For 30.
Yeah.
28.
For
And
us to have 5 per shift, it would be 22.
and so the other question I had was in regards to code enforcement. On the screen there, you had talked about what the majority of calls that Tony Belmonte, our code enforcement officer, had handled. And 61, which is the largest percentage of ordinance violations, were sign related. Is that like private business in the central business district signage,
I believe it all falls under this.
sign ordinance?
Yes, so like if we get a call that, hey, somebody has a sign up or garage sale stuff or downtown, the sandwich board signs, or all of those things, I believe, fall under like a sign
Sign.
complaint.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
So I'm going to circle you back to the report.
Okay.
I just thought it was really interesting this year that the ALICE training was extended to students, which seemed to me to be a really good idea. I was curious how that came about.
That's a great question. I don't know how it came about. I do know that our officers are, I know Officer Carlson is on the SEPLA board, and they are connected to like a community of, hey, what can we do better? And I'm sure that was one of the topics that came up and said, hey, why not? I think it's a great idea as well.
Thank you. And one other follow-up question I get often from constituents is about the use of 911. Like if that should only be reserved for emergencies, or if somebody's illegally parking over a sidewalk, for example, should that be the number they call? So I wonder if you might give some clarity there.
It is. And you would think in southern Michigan, I don't know, I was brought up to, you call 911 and dire emergencies. Here, that's sometimes the only way to get an officer, because if things are closed down here, you don't have the inside number, the 347-2500. And that's the only way you can get an officer to respond or even have a phone conversation with them. So once you get over the stigma of, I don't want to really call 911 for this, but a lot of times in reality, that's how you have to contact us. So yeah, just continue to tell them to call 911 and we'll handle it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Down with you and your officers. I've been very impressed by your training. I know you guys do more training than many
We do.
professions, and it's admirable the way you guys have kept that up.
Thank you.
You schedule it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
The accreditation bumper sticker is good too. I like that.
Yeah, and you know, they make us pay for those. Thank you.
Next to the consent agenda, February 16th, 2026 regular session and the closed session city council meeting as well for the 16th of February. Also acknowledge the receipt of certain administrative transactions that have occurred since February 16th, 2026. Also acknowledge the receipt of the 2026 Planning Commission Annual Report pursuant to Act 33 of the Michigan Public Acts, 2008, Article 2, Section 125.3819. Council, do you have any questions regarding this or comments? Or
I move for acceptance of the consent agenda.
Support.
I have a motion from Mr. Wilmot, a second from Mr. Knobtrop, but I have a comment right from Mr. Moore.
So I have a question for the team here. If you look at page 37, this is referencing our council meeting preparation procedures, policy discussion. Cue the groans in advance, apologies. But on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's referencing what was delineated as item 4 in our notes as we went through things. And if you remember in that section, we did all agree to delete a portion of it, except for the first sentence. But it was my memory that we also added Mr. Wilmot's addition that required that the majority of council members agree to rescheduling regular meetings. And when I reached out to the mayor, he remembered it the way I did, but Mr. Horn remembered it differently. So I thought it was probably good for all of us to take a look at our notes or something to see what it was we actually decided. So if you take a look at footnote 4 in the notes that you have even for tonight, hopefully that will provide clarity.
Yuck.
Couldn't we just listen to the recording again?
We can.
Yeah, we could listen to the recording. Sarah, I don't know if you have probably don't have your notes from that meeting, but we can certainly listen to the recording and get back with council.
Edit it.
I do have my notes with me. And are we talking about the makeup meeting section?
Yes.
Number 4, yes, Sarah.
Yeah, my meeting or my notes show everything that was highlighted in yellow that was struck out as okay to delete, and it was concurrence to delete that, except for the first sentence.
Right, and that part's absolutely correct. It's the next portion, which was Mr. Wilmot's suggestion, under number,
So it's not number 4 then, right?
wait, let me look, sorry. I apologize, it's number 3. where
Meeting
Mr. Wilmot-
cancellations. Okay, so I believe you guys decided to delete all of holiday cancellations and then the next section, meeting cancellations. You guys decided to change all. So it's like the second to last where it begins, however, such a call for the cancellation of a regular meeting of the city council generally should follow the polling of members of the city council to determine if all members concur. And I believe the discussion was change all to the majority.
Yeah.
And I have that written there.
Right, so that suggestion that Mr. Wilmot made was added.
Yes, majority, correct? So change from all to majority. And in the minutes, I note that change all to majority
No,
in the
that's
meeting
that's-
cancellations to allow for vagueness.
Apologies, but that's in a different section. That's in meeting cancellations.
Isn't that what you just said in under 3,
Yeah, number 3.
subsection 3?
Hold on.
Guess I'm getting confused on where we're looking at the minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so this is under makeup meetings.
Where?
In the minutes.
So,
Page 37, first paragraph, line 5.
Under makeup meetings, what you have, Miss Sarah, is correct, that we deleted that complete
Change all to majority.
second sentence. That's right.
What's in here, isn't it?
That's what it says in the changes, to change all to majority.
Okay, maybe it's my confusion.
Well, in any case, this should be on the agenda later on, so if there's additional clarity or questions, we can come back to it, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It should.
I just want to make sure we were all on the same page for that.
Yeah, it's close enough.
I think it's all right.
Okay,
All right.
thank
Any
you.
other comments on the consent agenda? I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Wilmot,
Aye.
Naktrab,
Aye.
Demore,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Next is public comment. This is your opportunity to address city council. If there's something on the agenda that you wish to participate in discussion in, then I ask that you hold and wait. If you can't and want to speak to us on something on the agenda, you have the right to do that. What you will do either way, come up and give us your full name and address city council, not the audience. If there's anybody that wishes to speak to council at this time, please raise your hand or step forward. Sir.
Keith Munson, 1034 Wakazoo. This winter, I had a young deer going from my yard to my neighbor's. I got stuck in my fence and I did call 911. And a few moments later, an officer appeared, and even though physically he didn't help me, he gave me emotional support and we got the deer free and moving on. At the last presentation of awards to officers last year, I talked to Officer Carr after the council meeting, and I had, my idea was to present to him that when public safety officers are on patrol, they should have their headlights on at all times. My reasons were, as a bicyclist, you can see in your rearview mirror cars much earlier coming when they have their headlights on. Secondly, I've been a motorcycle safety instructor for 35 years, teaching new students how to ride, and I've always emphasized the importance of having your headlights on. In our discussion, after a few moments, Officer Carr just walked away and left. And sorry, I was not impressed. There is a third reason too. that I'd bring to you, and that is the S in public safety. Having your headlights on really makes you more visible. And I'm sure you've experienced driving in low light conditions and seen other vehicles without their lights on and wondered what's wrong with them. Well, this also includes occasionally police officers. So he's not going to listen to me. I'm bringing this to you because perhaps he might listen to you. Okay, new topic. Spring is coming. I assume they're going to dig up the next 2 blocks of Howard Street between Jennings and Fulton and resurface it. And I'd ask you to change whatever regulations that the city has that narrows our city streets by 5 feet, that would not apply to this next move. You've probably experienced this winter with the amount of snowfall we've had, that some of our city streets have turned into 1-lane operations. And by narrowing the street 5 feet to begin with, I think we're just asking for more complications and trouble. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Anyone else wish to be the council at this time? Is there anybody online that wishes to speak to council at this time?
None online.
Okay. We'll move on from that. We'll go to city manager's update report, and I'll turn that over to city manager Horn.
You want these collected, by the way?
We didn't do that.
Yeah, we did that.
We did, it was part of the consent agenda.
This was the consent agenda. Closed session. What it is closed session, just to let you know what we're collecting. This is closed. When we went into closed section last meeting, there was notes taken. Those are turned in, filed, or destroyed. Go to city manager Horn's update.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Again, this is our first meeting of the month of March. I wanted to take a moment to celebrate staff birthdays today, or for the month of March. We have Joe Conti, our wonderful building and grounds manager. His birthday was today. We got to celebrate with Joe today. It was wonderful. Sarah Beck, our clerk, has a birthday later this month on March 18. And Jonathan Zorhoff, water, wastewater, celebrates a birthday on March 25. Work anniversaries this month. Lisa Grant in the finance department celebrates her first year anniversary with the city. Amy Tweeten, our downtown manager, 2 years. John Tompkins, Parks and Rec, 3 years. Sydney Nielsen, water, wastewater, 5 years. Tyler Hart, Parks and Rec, 7 years. And Kendall Klingel-Smith, Parks and Rec Director, 9 years with the city. Just a few reminders for folks. Our Board of Review kicks off here starting tomorrow with an organizational meeting, and this will be in the community room from 4 to 5 o'clock. That's followed the following week with our Board of Review designated times. That'll be Monday, March 9 from 3 to 9 o'clock, and then Friday, March 13th from 9 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. That's also in the community room, so we encourage folks to book an appointment and come and talk to the Board of Review members. Upcoming meetings this week and next. We have a Zoning Board of Appeals meeting tomorrow, looking at a couple of zoning cases, 706 Winter Park Lane, looking at front and rear yard setback variances to allow the construction of a single family dwelling, again at 706 Winter Park Lane. And then 1402 Howard Street to allow for a child care center that would serve North Central Michigan College students. So both of those are on for new business for the ZBA tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Parks and Rec Commission meets at their regular time next Monday at 6 o'clock. The Youth Advisory Council meets the same night, Monday, March 10th at 6 in this room. And then the Art Commission follows on Thursday, March 12th, and that's at noon in the community room. Few things to highlight, or this I wanted to highlight. I pushed this out on our social media last week. We are up and running with 3 webcams that are live currently, so folks can get a real glimpse of where things are at. We have a camera off the back of this building that kind of shoots out into the marina area. We have 2 cameras at Winter Sports Park, one showing the rink, one showing the sledding hill. So hopefully families can take a glimpse at that, take a look at current conditions to determine if they want to come out and enjoy that facility. So those are up and running on our website. If you go to our homepage, there's on the title at the very top, there's a tab called webcams that folks can access these cameras in real time. A few things are out to bid. The Howard Street section from East Mitchell to Michigan is out for bid. That's due back tomorrow. Looking at Jason, yep, tomorrow. So we're anticipating getting some good cost for that project. There's something else out for bid. What am I missing, Jason? Park Garden lot downtown is also out for bid. Is that also tomorrow? Okay. So a couple things that are we're getting ready for spring, our spring projects. So those projects are out to bid currently. They've been out for about 3 weeks or so. So we have a couple job openings that are out on our website as well. If you know of anybody looking for employment, certainly send them our way. We have positions available in Public Works, and certainly always looking for seasonal help as well as we get prepared for the summer. So encourage folks to look at our website and fill out applications. Also want to just say, Mayor, I really appreciate the recognition. That's very, very nice. As we reflect back almost a year ago now, and when that was all occurring, you know, the mayor was one of the first calls I received. And he was the one really behind opening this facility as a warming center. And I'm like, I like to have everything just so. And in that situation, everything wasn't just so. It was like making the best out of a pretty bad situation. So I appreciate the mayor pushing and nudging me in this way. As we did that and we set it up, it was just so heartwarming to see folks really come in and, for the most part, wanted to charge their devices. But you could tell that they were pretty chilly, and just how restaurants stepped up. They were either gonna have to throw food away or find another use for it, and how they stepped up in our community was pretty impressive, how everybody just rallied together and again, made the best situation possible to walk around and see folks just curled up in the corners of City Hall. Obviously, we've never done that before, so we were kind of in uncharted waters, but certainly glad we were able to extend that opportunity. We're looking at preparing for that next 100-year event and maybe trying to work with the schools and really try to find a location that has a full commercial kitchen, you know, a bigger space, gymnasium-wise. So we're working with the schools to try to find that spot that really can maybe satisfy more need than we could provide here. But certainly, again, I appreciate the community support during a very difficult, challenging time. My wife was right alongside me as well. I don't know how many cups of coffee she made during this event, but it was pretty impressive. The mayor brought in, I don't know, 2 or 3 crock pots of sloppy joes. We kind of all just rallied together, and I certainly appreciate that spirit.
Again, thank you for what you did. You stepped up to the plate. That was amazing. Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I just had one follow-up question. Do we anticipate any narrowing of Howard Street with this work that's going to be done?
Jason?
I take it you're referencing the Michigan to East Mitchell?
Yes.
No. The intent there, the only narrowing would be at the crosswalk where the greenway path comes by the alleyway, by the old Penny's building. Like we do at many crosswalks, we shrink up that to a two-way traffic, so you get the pedestrians out so traffic can see them. But otherwise, parking remains the same, the street width along the businesses remains the same. The intersection is getting reconfigured, or not reconfigured, reconstructed. The configuration is staying the same.
Thank you.
A follow-up question before you leave. How about the section that wasn't completed last year?
That section as designed is a 30-foot width. The existing width is 36.
So the answer is
They're gonna narrow
the
Howard,
at the top,
Howard's top of Howard by 6 feet.
from
From-
Washington to Sheridan.
Not to
From-
Sheridan.
not to
Sheridan.
Sheridan.
Sorry, I'm sorry. from
Jennings.
Washington to Jennings. And that was a plan that had a public hearing.
Correct. Yep.
Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Shane, for the report. I did have a couple of questions. I don't know if others noticed, but the time that you receive your assessment for your taxes into when the time for the Board of Review is like a window of opportunity like this small. And I wonder if other residents have kind of provided any feedback. I know that we generally rely on snail mail, which isn't always the most quickest way to kind of receive information, but I realize that we're probably limited to the fact that we have to mail them to residents. So, and of course, you know, assessments change from year to year, and this year, the increase in taxes is due to adjustments to market rate. So I think that that's probably across the board, and is that comparative to year to year to year? In people's experiences with the increase in taxes?
Yes, I think you're correct. It's more of a market rate adjustment. In your assessments that went out, I think I got mine a couple of weeks ago, I believe. There was maybe a one-pager pamphlet that was in that kind of hopefully instructed folks how to make an appeal to the Board of Review. So hopefully folks take advantage of that, but you are correct. It's more of a market rate adjustment.
And I also want to say that I do appreciate that this assessor actually includes a little newsletter every time he does. So that is one thing I just want to show gratitude about. But I just was thinking like, wow, that is such a quick turnover. And if you're not like Johnny on the spot and getting your mail on a timely basis, then the fact that in order to appeal, you have to make an appointment. So there's like several steps to be able to be heard. And I don't know if there's any opportunity to like lengthen that or provide ample opportunity for people to contest, or take action on their increase in taxes.
You know, that's been an issue. You know, I was on that for like 6 or 7 years. I don't know how many years. That was always an issue. It's like a Chinese fire drill from the time notice. And what I understand, there's not a lot of flexibility. We get the assessments out as quick as we can, and then by I don't know, ordinance, by law, that they got to get the tax review board. It's got to get done. So there's not much of a window there. So it's always a problem, Lindsay.
I figured that was probably the situation. And then I do have another question, Mayor, if I may. So I wanted to ask Jason Fate, in terms of the East Mitchell to Michigan RFP process going out to bid, when is that proposed work going to be done? And what will be will there be any moving of the farmer's market during the construction season there between Michigan and Mitchell Street of Howard?
Yeah, so the proposed schedule right now that's in the contract documents or the bidding documents is that we would anticipate to start end of March, early April. Of course, that's weather dependent. And right now, we have a planned completion date of May 22nd, so the Friday before Memorial Day. We do feel though that we may go beyond that. We've had a mandatory pre-bid meeting a couple weeks ago, Contractors didn't really have too many questions regarding the schedule, but it's all weather dependent. So if we get to that point where we can't start because there's excessive frost in the ground or there's just too much snow, we're definitely gonna have to push it back because you don't get the production that you need to make that project successful. So there's a chance that it would impact and potentially 1, 2, maybe 3 of the Fridays that the farmer's market is held.
So is there an alternative plan for moving the farmer's market in the plan of construction?
So we haven't talked to all the event organizers yet. We plan to this week. We were waiting for bids to come in first, see where the costs lay out, and then we'll move forward with reaching out to all folks that are impacted.
Thank you.
I have a question on the width of the 30-foot, going from 36 to 30. Is it statistically showing that that's safer for small towns like this?
We started, I think back in 2020, Kalamazoo project was designed that way. And we talked to our traffic engineers. That was a means of traffic calming.
Kalamazoo is only 30?
Yes.
Up at the top.
But not the rest of it on the bottom.
All of Kalamazoo
Because-
from Mitchell
Yeah.
to Jennings is either 30 feet and then at the school zone,
Mitchell to Jennings?
Yep.
Is only 30 feet.
30 feet, yep.
Okay, because a pickup truck is 8 foot wide.
Yep.
So if you had 2 pickup trucks parking, you couldn't have 2 pickup trucks passing each other on that street because you'd be 2 feet short, right?
Correct. But what we've noticed, like on Kalamazoo, is typically vehicles are staggered when they park, and it hasn't been an issue. I believe in talking with Mike Robbins in the past, when we did that project, if there was a potential issue, and we know that it may come up because people move, people sell their houses and traffic patterns and the way people park change. That, like we've done on other streets, we would evaluate and potentially sign on one side, no parking.
Mhm.
So you're putting them on the other.
Versus just keeping it 6 more feet. Okay.
But when we did, just for reference, when we looked at the Howard Street project, we spent almost 2 years monitoring and watching traffic patterns and where do people park and what do they do? And the segments that we narrowed have random parking, but most people have the ability to off-street park or, on their property. And in talking with a few of the residents of recent, because of the narrow streets and the snow, which we've been actively getting the banks pushed back and removing that snow, there has been some parking issues, but that's been citywide. It's not just on the narrower streets. Every street has that problem right now, or did, where we've been, like I said, blowing them back. So they confirmed what we noticed during that study period.
One thing I do appreciate is you're going out and you're plowing the banks back at evenings or during days, and it's not bad. I think that's really has helped the situation by pushing these back to the curb or close to the curb, because that is a big step. So thanks for doing that. Mr. Wilmot,
The section that will be narrower on Howard, are you going to restrict parking on one side there?
The intent to start with is no.
thank you. Next. Anyone wish to speak on anything that was presented by the city manager at this time? There being none, we'll go to new business. It's the adoption of a proposed resolution authorizing a motor pool purchase for a combination sewer jet and hydro excavation truck. Jason.
So yeah, in the capital improvements plan, we allocated $630,000 from the motor pool fund to purchase a combination sewer jet and hydro excavation truck. We currently have a sewer jet cleaning truck. It is 22 years old and it's showing signs of needing drastic improvements. The floor pan is rusting out and we're gonna have to do an overhaul if we keep that one in our fleet. So as we do more undergrounding in town, it's becoming more difficult to excavate. And so with our operations, I've talked to all of our supervisors between the electric, our sewer, water, and our streets, all of our departments can benefit from having a sewer hydro excavating truck. We can utilize it for catch basin cleaning, water leaks, sewer repairs, sewer cleaning like we do now. And even our electric department, we actually contracted out during the ice storm to excavate for new power poles to be replaced. And even with all of our undergrounding, there's oftentimes over the years, transformers settle and we have to re-excavate around those and then readjust those. When we currently do it, we have an excavator come in and they start digging around it. So it's very time consuming because we don't want to hit the power, and it's going to be much safer when we have a hydro excavating truck to do that because it's, you're not putting a sharp object in the ground. So with all that said, we've worked with 4 different manufacturers, did an extensive review, extensive demo of the trucks. Some of the trucks we actually, when they came up and demoed, we put them to work and tried them out. During this demo, we had myself, our supervisors, and staff involved with the demos, looking at the operations. With that, we've looked at capacities of like the debris box on it, water capacities, pressures for cleaning, the flow for cleaning. And so we narrowed it down. We did an extensive spreadsheet to evaluate what were our specifications and how the trucks align. Each truck had a unique feature to them. There's multiple vac trucks. They all do the job, but some of them have unique features that others don't offer. And when it all came out at the very end, the scoring, as you see in the agenda memo there, MTEX Super Products Camel Max ranked #1 for us. And one of the many reasons is this is a very expensive machine. It's going to get used on a daily basis between all of our departments. Support is very big for us. When we rely on our own piece of equipment to get the job done, we need it to perform. And when it does break down, we need to have that service. And so MTEC has mobile trucks. They are based in Livonia, but they will travel up to us and fix that. They also offer, it's a Freightliner chassis truck, similar to all the rest of our vehicles in the fleet. So we have a streamlined chassis that we all can work on here, but they offer frontline service or jump line service where if we call up our Freightliner dealer, which is in Traverse City, and we have an issue, we can get that in because of their relationship with that truck manufacturer. So our recommendation based on our staff feel, the training that they're going to provide us, essentially when we get this truck, they'll do initial training. As we have staff come and go, or say we have new staff that want to operate it 6 months from now, they'll come back up, train us, and that's for the life of the product. So based on all those evaluations that we did, the Super MTEC or MTEC's Super Products Camel Max ranked highest. And that was our recommendations. Any questions?
Questions, Ms. Walker?
No questions, Mayor. I'll just be happy to make a motion to approve the Hydrojet truck for purchase at the ticket of $598,569.93, and you budgeted $630,000, so you came in.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Walker, second from Mr. Moore. Other discussion, council, questions? Does the public wish to express anything to council at this motion? There being none, I will go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Walker,
Aye.
Demore,
Aye.
Knocktrab,
Aye.
Wilmot,
Aye, and I look forward to seeing it in the 4th of July parade.
Murphy.
Aye. Sporting.
I guess we'll pray anybody with that.
Hopefully water. Take a couple of hats and heads off. Motion passes 5-0. Next is the adoption of proposed resolution that would authorize a DDA redevelopment liquor license for Happy's Taco Shop at 413 East Lake Street. Turn it over to City Manager Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Happy's Tacos Shop is relocating to 413 East Lake Street. They're asking for City Council to approve a resolution for redevelopment liquor license for this establishment. This is back in 2006. There were up to 6 licenses approved by council. That was amended in 2018 to allow that number to increase up to 10. So currently we have 5 DDA licensed redevelopment establishments. So this would potentially be number 6 out of 10. There's criteria involved as far as amount of money spent on the redevelopment. So we've gone through a review process to make sure that they meet those thresholds. DDA at their DMB at their meeting on last Thursday made the recommendation to City Council to issue a DDA liquor license for Happy's Tacos, finding that the application is consistent with downtown strategic plan and will promote economic growth in the DDA district.
Questions, comments, or possible motion? Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I just had a quick question as to whether or not the city attorney had an opportunity to review this regarding ordinance compliance and any other compliance required.
I did. This is Laura, voice coming in from the beyond here to you. I did have an opportunity to review the materials in the packet, and the application appears to comply with the statute, which is fairly bare bones in its requirement. And then it does provide the information for the city to evaluate whether it meets those requirements of the ordinance. So they've provided information about what they've spent and what they intend to do with it. The standards in the ordinance, which is included in the packet as well, talk about the recommendation of the Downtown Management Board and really determining whether this is beneficial and would promote economic growth in a manner consistent with the goals of the DDA district. That's in section 4-3, subparagraph 4. So from a legal perspective, I don't have any concerns or see any roadblocks from my role in council proceeding with this and approving it.
Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
Questions, comments, Ms. Walker?
I'd be happy to make a motion, Mayor.
Another second.
I'd be happy to second that.
A motion from Ms. Walker, second from Mr. Knobtrop. Any other discussion, council? Public wish to weigh in on this to the council? There being none, I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Walker,
Aye.
Knoptrop,
Aye.
Demore,
Aye.
Wilmot,
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations. Happy Taco Shop. Moving right along, adoption of proposed resolution that would authorize a consulting services contract with Sheila Rune for services associated with the Public Arts Commission. And I turn it over to City Manager Horn for that one.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is ongoing consulting services for the Public Art Commission. The Crooked Tree was providing those services over the last few years, with Sheila being kind of the point person for Crooked Tree. Sheila has recently retired, and the Art Commission would like to continue to utilize her services in this role. So before you this evening is a consulting services agreement that has been reviewed by our city attorney as well, to engage with Sheila to continue those consulting services to the Art Commission.
Ms. Walker, I'm sorry, Mr. Moore had her hand up first.
Feel free.
So I'm just confirming on the record here that both the fees and the expenses to be paid to Ms. Rune are within the allocated budget for the Arts Commission.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Walker?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I think this is a great idea. I just wonder, what is the current, then does the role of the Arts Commission and Crooked Tree Arts Center change at all in this configuration with
Yes.
hiring the consultant?
Yes.
Okay,
Crooked Tree was only involved with us hiring the consultant to assist in sending out proposals and calls for art, et cetera. And that was what they fulfilled. Sheila retired and we felt it was best just to stay with her because she was doing a great job. So we stayed with her.
so the proposal is to cap it at $5,000 a year, so that would be 100 hours at the $50 an hour rate for automatic renewal. So this is proposes for 2026 and then automatic renewal in 2027.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's if she spends that many hours, I think, I doubt if she's not gonna spend 100 hours on this, I don't believe, but, it just gave us a scope to go by. Mr. Moore?
I was only gonna say that includes her expenses as well, so it
Correct.
could be less than, yeah.
And the allocated amount for 2026, I think, went up to $60,000 this year from 50. So it's like 10% of,
Yes.
I'd be happy to make a motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Do I have a second?
I'll second, I'll support.
I have a motion from Ms. Walker and a second from Mr. Mr. Wilmot. Ms. Walker dominating the motions tonight, so. Any other discussion, council, on this? Public wish to weigh in on this hiring? I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Walker,
Yes.
Wilmot,
Yes.
Nachtrab,
Aye.
Demore,
Aye.
Murphy.
Yes, aye. Motion passes 5-0. We have 4 items to go. First reading of a proposed ordinance amending chapter 10 regarding fireworks. I'm gonna turn that over to City Manager Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. In front of you is a slight amendment to our current fireworks ordinance based on our discussion at the last meeting. The only change to that ordinance is to authorize city council to approve. And I just put in as a placeholder, this could be 0, could be whatever number you want it to be. But just to start conversation, we started at 3 additional public fireworks displays within a calendar year upon written request. So based on our last discussion, we had an application in front of us. There was some discussion about increasing that window or opening that window for fireworks that were outside of the current days that are allowed in state statute in the Michigan Fireworks Safety Act. We did have an applicant followed the process that we had set forward and kind of did everything we asked them to do. And so that obviously was tabled or wanted us to kind of go back and look at if there was any desire to amend this ordinance to open up a few additional days potentially within a calendar year that would have to be approved again by this body. So that's the only change to the ordinance, is to again open up that window, and then also to clean up some operational issues that really align with state statute. Instead of the former ordinance had the director of public safety agreeing or providing permission for such displays. Obviously, we do not do that. We bring those to city council. So that's a kind of a housekeeping cleanup, if you will. And then the additional days is up for discussion.
Questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. To clarify, I voted against the subsequent application that was considered at the last meeting. And I've since had further conversation with the city manager about the nature in which that application was made in good faith by the applicant as well as in good faith by the city staff in processing it in accordance with the vagaries of the ordinance in its previous form. And so I've reconsidered this application, but that having been said, when it comes down to it, I would submit that instead of 3 here for additional fireworks, it should be 0. In other words, I think the dates that are shown in the existing ordinance are sufficient, but I would make an exception with this one application under the circumstances. Thank you.
Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for your comments, Charlie. I really appreciate that, putting it in a context of what we saw before us last time and what we're seeing now. So, first of all, I felt like, and I voted accordingly, that I felt like the application was submitted with due diligence based on an event that had transpired in Bay Harbor last season where somebody didn't apply and had a fireworks display, private one, that resulted in law enforcement having to attend to noise violations and ordinance violations of our already created fireworks ordinance. So I felt like the reaction to not doing the right thing the previous year was a person going through the steps and applying through the state of Michigan and whatever entities and bodies that person, governing bodies, applied to. So, and because Bay Harbor is a wedding destination location and Northern Michigan, Little Traverse Bay is a place where people want to come and get married and celebrate all of these big advances in their life, I think that allowing by application private fireworks displays and allowing maybe a certain number of those a year to be approved. We went from a private fireworks display to a potential change in an ordinance for public fireworks displays. So I was a little confused in terms of the private nature of the previous application versus changing our ordinance to reflect additional public displays. Now, a private display is going to be a public display because there's no way you can screen a fireworks display in Bay Harbor in the middle of the bay. So I guess I had some questions about that, and I felt like this person had done their due diligence with the laws and policies that exist to apply with plenty of time and seeking approval by dotting all their i's and crossing all their t's. So.
Ms. Demore.
So while I support the amendment regarding decision-making by council instead of public safety, because apparently that's required by state statute, I don't support the addition of these 3 additional dates. I actually think this ordinance from 2018 was very well done. And I think where I respectfully disagree with my 2 colleagues who've spoken thus far is that while it's true that the applicant complied with the application, et cetera, the ordinance was very clear that that was a date outside the parameters that had been established. So for my part, I would not vote to move that forward at this juncture. Thank you.
Mr. Knobtrop.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I got a number of mixed feelings about this. You know, and I know the last year fireworks that was done, there was some misunderstanding of the application of whether they had to come here or not. There was some confusion. Having said that, I support the idea of having some latitude on added fireworks. I am more concerned about the public safety aspect of it than the fact that we, you know, that we go outside of the traditional thing. This is the 250th year of our country's existence. I think it's okay to have some fireworks outside the windows. I got some feedback from some people out of nowhere that gave me some context to the meeting or the change that was done in 2018, that it was more focused on the city activities and more of the neighborhood stuff. And it wasn't as much for something going on at Bay Harbor 6 miles away from here. So I don't see a big problem with it at all, as long as it's safe, as long as the neighbors there's notification. I think we need to be a little, give people a little bit of slack to have a professionally done, fully insured, everybody is going to be there. We have thousands of people that like to see it, and I don't see any problem with giving a little bit of flexibility.
Mr. Wilmot,
Just for additional clarification on my position, I'm not anti-fireworks. I'm anti-noise from fireworks. It consumes the entire region when a fireworks show like this goes off. If they want to put a drone show on and hire the Detroit Symphony, that's fine with me. But it's the noise factor that is a public nuisance, and that's why I still maintain the position of 0 additional days.
I'm supportive of authorizing 1 or 2. One being the one that the gentleman did apply, followed through with all of the regulations, requirements of getting a hold of the DNR, Coast Guard out on the bay, went and followed through all of the stuff that was given to him by the city. I feel it is in our best interest to stay true with what we had put out there to begin with. We want to switch it now after this applicant, I say go with him. If you want to say no after that one or another one, whatever, I'm fine with that. But I agree with you, Mr. Wilmot. I think fireworks, it ends up becoming a noise situation. Veterans, dogs, children, hours, all of those things enter into that piece of it. I think I'm just saying that I would support authorizing where it says up to 3, I'd say up to 1 or 2 and leave it at that at this point. Those people that want to have fireworks for the 4th of July have from June 29th to July 4th. They have 5-6 days to have fireworks over the 4th of July. So if you're celebrating the 4th of July, I know what it's going to sound like up above the top of the hill where I live. There's a park up above it. It's constant. And I feel that the constant should be with what the state ordinance has right here. But I do believe that I would support a motion to authorize it to be in 1 or 2, but that would be it. Mr. Wilmot?
I have a process question. We have this potential change before us now. And if we were to vote no on this resolution with any additional times, would we still have an opportunity to revisit the applicant?
No.
The application from before? Well, I'd say yes and a no.
How could we?
In other words,
How could we review it if we?
Can we re-review that application first and then address this at a later time?
Certainly, I think you could, I could bring back the application to the next meeting if you wanted to approve that, just because of process and procedure, and then we can certainly bring this back in front of you after that, or you can do them concurrently. You can hold this one and I could bring the application back the next meeting.
Well, this should come back at the same time, because otherwise there's gonna be a stack up. People are gonna run to say, geez, we gotta put an application in for fireworks for this summer, because the city of Petoskey is in 2 weeks is gonna, or 4 weeks is gonna say drop dead, no more fireworks. And we're gonna end up having a flood of people possibly. I don't know, but so we have 3 or 4 more people saying, hey, get your application in now, because the city's gonna chop it off. I'm in favor of the one. Mr. Knobtrop.
Quick process. I'm in favor of, frankly, I think we ought to give ourselves a little bit of latitude. I think the noise is a little bit too much when there's so many other people that love it. But that's my opinion, whatever. But so I'm in favor of 1 or 2 also. But my process question is, this is first reading. So
We're not
I'm a
voting
little-
on this
So
tonight.
there's nothing,
No,
so all that we can, it seems like amongst the 5 of us here, it would be cool if we can have some consensus for the next time, so we don't waste the city's time in all this.
I don't
And
think it's a
maybe
waste
it's not
of
gonna
time.
work.
First reading is a discussion.
The city attorney wanted to chime in.
City attorney, could you please weigh in on this for us? Laura?
Sorry, I have to be unmuted and I had
Oh.
muted myself to reduce background noise. Thank you. And I don't want to muddy the waters and I'm not sure this will. But I think it is worth noting there's a distinction between consumer fireworks, which in state law are the ones that you allow on certain days, versus display fireworks or pyrotechnics, which are large public displays. And this current ordinance, even with these amendments, doesn't necessarily distinguish between those. But the state law would allow you to treat them differently if you wanted to, because you've got one part of the statute that talks about consumer fireworks on those certain days, but then you have a different section of the statute that says that the council, the legislative body, upon application, can grant a permit for, it has a list, agricultural, wildlife fireworks, articles, pyrotechnic, display fireworks. It does include consumer fireworks as well, but separately, or special effects for public or private display. So reading those together, I think if you wanted to, you could say, look, we can grant approval for large scale, public fireworks events on a case by case basis. That doesn't mean any consumer can come for their consumer fireworks and get approval. I don't know that that makes a difference in terms of what you're discussing policy wise. But just since we were talking about fireworks kind of monolithically, I wanted to point out that you could regulate them separately if you wanted to.
Ms. Demore.
So Laura, are you saying that this only applies to one or the other as it's currently drafted?
Well, right now your ordinance lumps them all together. So right now you do have all of those restrictions applying generally to fireworks, except your dates. If you look at current section 10-19 D6, it says the ignition, discharge, or use of consumer fireworks shall be limited to the following days after 11 a.m. And that's consistent with state law. The point of the state law reflected in the ordinance is to put a restriction on when consumers can set off fireworks.
Okay.
But if you're talking about what I would say professional fireworks, that's different than consumer fireworks. So under your ordinance, those are not limited to those days.
So in other words, the application that previously came before us, are you saying because those were proposed to be launched by professionals, they don't really fall within this ordinance as drafted?
And that's what I was just pulling up the prior application to make sure I was remembering it correctly, but I thought it was a professional display.
It is.
Yes. it
Yeah.
is.
So that, to my mind, is not consumer fireworks. Consumer fireworks are described or defined, in the statute, kind of not clearly in the sense that it defines them by referencing U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission under certain, codes of federal regulations. But it's clear when you compare that in the statute to other definitions where they've defined these other kinds as devices for professional use that, kind of obviously consumer fireworks are not the same as fireworks for professional use.
And so just for clarity, and maybe I'm the only one that needs this, but this revision that you're proposing then, you're using the word public fireworks. So is this provision, as you've added it, something that would apply to the professional fireworks application that's been submitted, or what?
So I think first this was a starting place and the intention was to add on to D6, but frankly, I'm kind of thinking about this as we're discussing it. So we may want to tweak that, or if you're not going to allow additional days for consumer fireworks, then you're not going to add additional days. If you are going to add additional days for consumer fireworks, maybe it's an amendment to D instead of E.
If you don't establish additional dates for consumer fireworks, can you still have a provision like the one you're suggesting that would be completely discretionary case by case to the city council? Does that make sense?
For the public displays?
I think that makes sense because the statute would make it permissive anyway, in that people would have to apply for any, let's call it non-consumer fireworks. And again, your original ordinance doesn't in E doesn't distinguish between those necessarily, because it just says public display of fireworks. That doesn't necessarily mean, it's not clear because that's not a defined term in the statute. So we probably should clean that up either way. And like I said, I guess I have muddied it up, even though I didn't intend to, but your conversation had me thinking a little bit more. So I guess the policy question is, one, do you want to add additional days for consumer fireworks? And then two, I think you have in E, currently for people to apply for that display. And do we change that language to make it clear that is only for non-consumer displays?
And for non-consumer displays, we wouldn't need to have a date range or anything. You could just take them one by one based on what was presented. Is that correct or incorrect?
Correct, because it's a completely different section of the statute that has that language. It's only the consumer fireworks in the statute where it says, I'm reading from MCL 28.457, a local unit of government may enact an ordinance regulating the ignition, discharge, and use of consumer fireworks, including an ordinance prescribing the hours of the day. If a local unit of government enacts an ordinance under this subsection, the ordinance shall not regulate consumer fireworks on the following days, and then it lists those holidays. And if you compare that, Councilmember Demore, that was 28.457, then go to 28.466. And that has a much broader grant of authority for approving fireworks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Knobtrob.
I'm with Lindsay. I get all these numbers all screwed up. As I said in the beginning of this, the email I got from someone that seemed to be very knowledgeable, I want to reiterate. I wasn't here in 2018 to talk about this, but the context was not the commercial. It was the neighborhood stuff, which then speaks to the whole consumer side of it. And on the consumer side of it, and now I'm getting more educated, I kind of agree with what we have. I do. And that we're not a Disney World. We don't need to have fireworks going all over the place. I kind of agree with the context of that now, but I still don't see, I'm still confused as to I call the commercial grade, or whatever term we call it, the professionally ran Coast Guard, safety, all that stuff is in there. Where does that apply currently?
Well, what I've read so far, and I believe I read the statute that Laura just read to us, it refers to it as commercial and or display fireworks shows.
Not consumer.
Not consumer.
Okay.
But there's a difference here, because what we do here on the 4th of July is a public fireworks display. We also have to be careful that when somebody wants to throw a party and have a fireworks display, they're not inviting the public. They're imposing on the public. So that's my biggest concern.
So what I'm understanding from Laura, but since she's right here, she can make clear, is that if we want clarity on the commercial aspect, we need additions to what we have here. Is that right?
I think it would be beneficial. The way the statute worked was originally it just had this, as I understand it, the 466 that said, go ahead and regulate any kind of firework, and listed all these different kinds. And then was amended to say, but for consumer, you can't regulate them on these dates. So that's why we have those dates in there. So those dates are, kind of a free-for-all for consumer, but not on other dates. I think it might be helpful to clarify it and use the terms the same way the statute does. Which, if I'm understanding, you'd leave consumer fireworks basically only allowed on those dates that are listed in the statute in your ordinance. You would allow professional displays to apply for approval from council on a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm. What criteria do we use on a case-by-case basis?
I think that
Well,
just
the
seems-
same
it's
way you
kind of the
develop
issue.
criteria for, development liquor licenses. What's important to the city in deciding whether to approve those?
Public good.
When it comes to public good, they had to spend for the liquor license $75,000 of improvements to the business, the building, et cetera. I don't know how you can tie that into after the fireworks they're going to put.
No, I didn't mean to
can't do
suggest, yeah, I didn't mean to suggest that. I meant more, just by analogy, right? Was saying we often have to create criteria in the ordinance for what we're going to allow,
Right.
Some of that might be insurance, experience. Do these people know what they're doing? Is this their first fireworks show? Maybe we don't want it to be in Petoskey. Things like that.
Do they have insurance?
Yes.
It's already clear.
Do
in
they
the
have
ordinance.
permits?
Those
would be
are all
required.
part of the
They were
current
required.
criteria.
Yeah.
Right, but those would be listed as the.
My biggest question is, how do you pick one over the other? If they all comply, you're gonna give licenses to everybody to do fireworks all year long?
Lindsay has her hand up.
Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate this discussion because I think it's really relevant. I feel like we should leave our ordinance alone because it's in really good shape. It answers all of the questions that's ever come forth. We now have an opportunity to evaluate an application from the state of Michigan, somebody that crossed all their Ts, dotted all their Is, a professional pyrotechnics, all the insurance, all the compliance. So we just evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. We don't need to set a limit. This is the first one that's come before council in 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. So I don't see like people bum rushing us to approve private fireworks displays. And you get your application in when you get your applications in, so it's like first come, first serve. I think we should leave our ordinance alone, not accrue any more legal fees, and bring it back to this council to approve the current application that's on the table.
Mr. Wilmot.
So by extension, anyone that makes an application will get approved?
No.
Well, what criteria can council use to say no?
The application process is,
No, but if they fulfill the application and they dot all the i's and cross off all the t's, you're saying approve them.
I think we vote on that.
But what basis do we have to vote against it if your ordinance says, send the application in?
No,
And
the
right now
ordinance
it's
doesn't say
drafted
anything.
for
has
your,
to be approved by city.
All right.
yeah, sorry,
City
and right
attorney,
now, sorry.
Go.
Right now, it's drafted for the Director of Public Safety to do this. So that is, even if you don't change anything else, you likely do want to change that to give council the authority.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
We're not voting on anything tonight, on any of this. Okay, this was a discussion piece of it. We'll come back in 2 weeks for the completed discussion on this. Who else wishes to speak? Mr. Knobtrop.
You know, and I appreciate what you're saying. I really do. I think there's also, let people do, if they're following the rules or are safe, let people have their own lives and have a little bit of personal freedom. And I'm not saying go crazy with this, but I think to be just flatly say, unless it's approved, to say no because it makes dogs bark or it's too much noise for some people, I don't think that's right either. It kind of, I don't know. It seems to me that we're making we don't have a problem with this. This is not a big deal, in my opinion.
But here's one of the pieces. We get involved in doing the commercial piece of it, you can set the time, that the limit of time of when they are blasted off. It isn't gonna be a 3-hour display. It could be a half-hour display, a 45. The one at Bay Harbor last summer was
Too long.
way too long, almost an hour.
Too long.
Okay, too long. So let's work with the city attorney. Let's work on what we want in this professional or high-level display piece of this. Let's work with her to come up with criteria that people can live with. But I don't want to see a fireworks, professional or not, going for 2 hours, an hour, 3 hours. I think that's too much. I think we should have a time limit on it.
Yeah, the time limit is in the application that you would all review. And if you see that somebody's gonna do 2 hours, obviously that's a clear no.
But if it's in the ordinance or whatever we pass, then it's established and they know right away without having to even check the application. They know that they've got a window of this much time to do a fireworks. But that's my feelings of, that's the one restriction I would say on the commercial or the professional one would be a time limit of what time? Mr. Knobtrop.
I agree with you. I also think notification is important.
Yeah, yeah.
So
how
that
do we
people
notify?
are
Yeah.
notified around that if they do have a dog that needs some TLC.
How do you suggest we do that?
Well, again, my experience is in the Bay Harbor. And we all get notices. There's notices out 6 ways to Sunday that there's gonna be fireworks on this place or this place, and we're always notifying people about it. So I don't know how the city does that.
Are you going to notify all those people in your ward then
Well,
as well?
We can use
website.
social media and we can get the
yeah,
word out.
but I think it's important to notify people in the surrounding
Okay.
area. Just,
All right,
that was the. other thing.
notification and length of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Moore,
So for my part, I think it's essential that you have criteria. If you don't have criteria, you have to say yes to everyone. And if the criteria is as simple as insurance, those types of things, it's going to be very difficult to delineate among people that apply. So I would largely rely on Laura. I'm sure she'd be able to make some good suggestions for us in terms of criteria and if there should be a cap and that sort of thing. But I think it's really important to have criteria. Thank you.
Mr. Wilmot,
I don't disagree with that, but my basic question is, if they follow the criteria, is it going to be may or shall when it comes to city council?
I think it should be may. I think it needs to be approved by city council.
If it's may, on what basis can we, without facing litigation, on what basis can we say no?
We've already
Well-
approved 3 this year, or
Yeah, if you establish criteria, and some of those are going to have some flexibility in them so that
Yes.
there is some discretion. You just have to have a rational basis and be able to articulate why a particular application, is not going to be in the best interest of the public safety. What we want to do is make sure we have criteria that have some objective measures, but also, again, some subjective flexible measures so that you can use your judgment and discretion. It just has to be a decision that's based on those facts and not based on facts that you shouldn't consider and wouldn't consider. But that's what the protection is there for. It can't be an arbitrary denial, but it can be a reasonable or rational denial.
Mr. Moore,
But just for clarity of Laura, relative to this consumer document, everybody's happy leaving the consumer document the way it is, except for the change for the decision maker to be city council instead of public safety.
yes.
Is that right?
That's agreed upon. Yeah.
Got it.
That was agreed upon, yes. We'll revisit this, 2 weeks. Ms. Demore, you have something to say?
I'm just thinking that if the other part, the commercial part's gonna get added to this, it's probably gonna be another first reading unless the commercial part's separate.
I'm fine doing separate.
Well, I would defer to,
Laura?
Yeah, I think we could do that as a separate one because it's going to be a pretty meaningful expansion of what's in your first reading.
Right. We could have first reading on the professional one though, is that correct?
Correct.
That's what would be the ideal, just to get it done with, move it on. And you guys can hash it through at that point.
can I ask one?
Ms.
question?
Walker?
So just in terms of language, Laura, would it then go from public displays to and or private?
No, we'd use the language that's in the statute, so it would refer to, and there's a few different, it would be display fireworks, articles, pyrotechnic, and a couple other terms that are in the statute. So we would try to track that language because those are defined terms.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Good with this? We want the public to weigh in on this. Public can weigh in on this. They come up to the front. First name, last name, address council, not the audience.
Emily Meyerson, 520. Emily Meyerson, 520 Cherry Street. I'm sort of confused on the different ordinances and which one's which, but I guess I just want to say I really am against expanding the days that we have fireworks. We have them a lot of days, if you add that up. We live in a tourist area. I accept that people like to put them off. There's private groups for weddings and things like that, but to expand beyond those days, it's hard to prepare you. How do you notify people? I live up on the hill in Ward 2, and last year when that Bay Harbor one went off, it kept me up. So you would have to notify the whole region. It echoed. It is proven the effects it has on PTSD, on animals, on people who work, who have to get up early in the morning. You can't sleep. You can say it's just one, but you know what? One person has it at a wedding and it becomes trendy, and the next person wants it, and the next person wants it, and the next person wants it. And I agree with Charlie. How do you know when to say no? If they meet all the regulations, how does one person get it and not the next? Is that really fair? To me, what's fair is you have certain days that you can have it, and that's it. And you go within those days. You start expanding it, I see that it'll never end. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to council at this time?
There's someone online. Are you guys ready for them?
Please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is Jim McLean calling, and the one thing that I'd like to just weigh in on as you're thinking about considerations for this is all these fireworks that come to the bay come in boxes and are in packaging. And once they drop from the sky, they drop into the bay and onto all the public parks and just the public areas. And it is a mess. And I would want to see some sort of provisions in the application that they are responsible for picking up after the fireworks.
Good suggestion. Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. I take that comment to heart as well, because non-point source pollution of fireworks in the form of paper and plastics are prevalent post fireworks. In fact, our city manager is very familiar. There is a group of Rotarians who at the end of the 4th of July fireworks clean up the area along the shoreline and along the launch site for our fireworks. And non-point source pollution from fireworks is an issue. And if cleanup post-party and post-fireworks display is an option, there's gonna be, like, you have to take into consideration it's falling into the water, and then what gets washed up, what doesn't sink, gets washed up on the shore, and it's usually several days after. So I'm kind of curious about how that would look like for a non-public display of fireworks that the city of Harbor Springs and the city of Petoskey deploy with Rotarians in the cleanup. I don't know what that would look like, but I think that that's a point well taken.
Anyone else wish to speak? Is there anybody else online? No?
None online.
Okay. We'll carry on this discussion at the next meeting. There'll be two things. There'll be a first reading and a second reading on separate pieces, the professional versus the public or commercial one. Next on the agenda is the proposed adoption of a proposed resolution that would approve the Carnegie Building Historic Window Assessment and Rehabilitation Bid Award Amendment and authorize the allocation of $30,000 in the 2026 capital improvement plan budget to address all remaining historic windows at the Carnegie Building. I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Horn on this one.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this could be a quick discussion potentially. Going back a few months, we had talked about the grant that we received, $100,000 for window assessment and rehabilitation at the Carnegie Building. Council asked me to go back to our grant organization to reallocate some funds out of the community engagement bucket, if you will, and put that into the window repair and assessment bucket. We were able to get an additional $8,100 approved by the grant organization. Val and her board, library board, also brought forward an additional $10,000 out of their funds to this, as well as we will receive $10,000 for the 250th Carnegie Foundation contribution. So totaling that new total up, we will have 67,665 to go toward window rehabilitation. If you recall, our bid package had a all-in cost of about $96,000, which leaves a balance of about $28,500 left. My ask to council simply is, would you consider allowing an allocation of additional funds to allow us to address the remaining 34 windows in one mobilization? We have a viable contractor that's sometimes very challenging to get in our region. These are not, these have to go through a certification process at the state to be able to qualify for historic window preservation. Our contractor has gone through that. They're certainly very capable. They have a lot of projects that they've worked on in the past that we've gone through. So respectfully, I would ask for an additional allocation up to 30. I just said up to 30,000. The balance remaining is 28,500, but to give a little bit of flexibility out of the capital improvement budget to really knock this out in one mobilization.
Mr. Moore,
I'm happy to make the motion as set forth in page 93 and 94 of the packet.
which, could you just give a summary? So,
Sure. Relative to the Carnegie Building Historic Window Assessment and Rehabilitation Services.
I support.
that is picking up the balance as well. Okay?
Yep.
Ms. Walker.
I have a question. Mayor and Shane, where would you propose that the money would come from to cover the 30,000 out of the 2026 budget?
It would come out of the building fund. So we have a fund that looks at all of our city buildings, a capital budget that comes out of the building fund. So I would allocate funds out of that. It remains to be seen yet if that would require a budget amendment. We may be able to realize some savings on other projects in that building fund. So we'll keep an eye on that. If it looks like we're going to go over, obviously we'll come back for a budget amendment to city council, but that's where I would recommend it come from.
Okay, and I have another similar question. Thank you, Mayor. So is it possible that the Carnegie Building could apply for a facade grant from the Downtown Management Board to cover the cost of the replacement of the windows potentially, especially the forward-facing ones that face Mitchell Street?
It's possible. I think they've allocated a facade grant for the Leo's Lounge.
Yeah, I watched the meeting.
Yeah,
last week.
so I think those funds are gone.
Have been all allocated.
Yeah.
The 30,000 is the pool,
Yeah.
and they didn't find any other applications, so it wouldn't be until 2027 that money would be available again. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Public wish to weigh in on this?
None online.
Go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Demore,
Aye.
Wilmot,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Mactrab,
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Next on the list, consideration Lowe versus Petoskey Settlement Agreement releasing easements concerning the Little Traverse Willway non-motorized trail. I'll turn it over to City Manager Horn.
So in your packet this evening is a proposed settlement agreement, as you all know, and maybe the public, we have been part of a lawsuit with Gustav Lowe and Courtney Lowe as it pertains to our easement through the Little Traverse Wheelway, essentially the failed section, alleging sort of a breach of contract where we have not maintained our easement. And so based on back and forth discussion with our city attorney and their attorney, a proposed settlement agreement has been brought forward, which essentially says that claims would be dropped if the easements are released for that particular section. So it's important to also know that as part of the Wheelway design project to get through the finish line, we had to reach out to all property owners where we have easements and get their concurrence to have this be a permitted project, the rebuild of the slope. We've received no responses back from any of those property owners, which really tells us that we would not be permitted to move forward with having no support from property owners for this rebuild. So that would be required before we could even move forward with this project. So that's obviously not part of this agreement, but just wanted to give that clarity that as part of the permitting process, we had to reach out to property owners to get concurrence to move forward and have not received any responses back from property owners in this stretch of the Wheelway. So obviously our city attorney is on the line. Happy to try to answer questions as they are put forward.
Mr. Moore.
So Laura, just for the benefit of public understanding, am I correct in saying that the ask of this lawsuit was that the easements that these folks had granted, their ask is that they be extinguished? Is that accurate?
That is correct. However, they have also asked in the lawsuit for money damages. They also have asked for the city to pay for or reimburse them for what they paid for their own erosion control measures, debris removal, and costs associated with loss of quiet enjoyment, plus their attorney fees. So that's an unquantified number, meaning there's not a specific dollar amount in the complaint. But in addition to seeking termination of the easement, the lawsuit seeks money damages. The settlement would involve only the release of the easements and would not involve paying any money to the plaintiffs.
Thank you.
Do you give us any other information you wish to share with the public?
Sure. I think that City Manager Horn did a good job of explaining the context of the lawsuit and the position that the city is in. Without, I suppose, going too deep in the weeds, this is a settlement that that we are certainly comfortable with City Council approving. It gives finality to both the city and to the property owners. And certainly whether to accept it is a policy decision of the council. But it does eliminate litigation risks that, there's always uncertainties in litigation, and my crystal ball doesn't work very well. So that's the thing about a settlement, is it does give you a finality.
Mr. Moore.
And then again, just for the benefit of public understanding, am I correct in saying that the complaint that's been filed in this matter is available to the public? It's a matter of public record.
Yes, it is a matter of public record. It isn't necessarily easy to find online, but if anyone wanted to request it, that's something that we could provide.
If we decide as city council not to go with this agreement, could you give me some type of look of a scenario if they were to proceed with court?
Sure. We're fairly early in the case, so the next steps would be some discovery. We do also have a mediation session scheduled. The court requires us to do that. Mediation, the point of that is to try to reach a settlement, which, you know, we've tried to do here without incurring the costs of a mediator. Assuming there isn't a settlement at that, discovery would continue. Discovery means further exchange of documents as well as possibly depositions. That could be depositions of city officials, of city staff, past or present. And as well, we have the opportunity to depose the plaintiffs and any experts or professionals that they've hired to get an understanding of their costs and their claims. Then it would likely go to perhaps a motion of some kind of motion on our part, perhaps for summary judgment. But that probably would be many months down the road. If there were factual disputes, then it would have to go to a trial, and the plaintiffs did demand a jury trial. And I'll note this is pending in the federal district court for the Western District of Michigan. So this is not something decided there in the circuit court. It would be decided by Judge Jane Beckering down in the federal court.
Mr. Moore.
So I will put you on the spot a bit, and if you can't answer this question, I certainly understand. But can you give us any estimate of the cost of defense, not through a trial, but to the time of trial, so through discovery?
So that is somewhat difficult to estimate only because it always depends on how much discovery the other side does. So if they don't take any depositions, that makes it much cheaper. But you can, as a general rule, if you assume full robust discovery and motion practice, both sides, I think you're looking at between, it could be, 50 to 100,000. And that might also include hiring our own experts to, counter any expert witnesses that they have.
That's prior to trial.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilmot.
So in the assumption, using the assumption that that the city might prevail in a lawsuit and maintain the easement in its current form as a result, there are other concerns that the city manager just referred to in terms, could you please clarify that again? There are other potential limitations to maintaining the easements. Will the easements need to be expanded or just maintained, and we need permission in order to just maintain them?
Yeah, so in order to be permitted by permitting agencies, Eagle, Coast Guard, others, they need assurances that private property owners are on board with this before they issue a permit. So there's a process that we would have to go through to get concurrence among property owners. So we would be looking at obviously maintaining the easements that we have going forward. There would be some shifting of the trail as it realigns more inland in a few sections. So a few areas would be new easements or an additional easement, but we're always looking at the 20-foot easement. That's kind of where we're looking for. Some of that would shift a little bit inland, but we would need concurrence by private property owners to allow us to even go forward with permitting this project.
Even if it's 20 foot?
Yeah. Yes.
Is that due to construction on the rest of their property, or?
That's just due to the requirements of the permitting agencies. They don't want to sign off on permits if property owners are not on board with.
Would that mean every single property owner would?
Here we have an easement.
And how many easements do we have?
I don't recall, no.
20?
I don't think there's that many, but there are a number of pieces of property that are owned by the county, owned by the city, MDOT. So I don't know how many overall we're looking at, but yeah, all of those would have to go through the process.
And if one of them said no?
I don't know if one says no. I don't know what that threshold is with permitting agencies. But if we're not getting any response, that's not a positive direction.
Mr. Moore.
So, City Manager Horn, I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but when we had the presentation about easements, we were told additional easements would be required beyond what we already had. Do you know whether or not one of the additional easements was relative to these folks' property?
I don't believe so. That's not the stretch we were talking about, additional
Okay.
easements.
Thank you.
Mr. Knobtrop.
Just to clarify a little bit, Shane, so you're saying that, because I think, we all want to do this. We all have, the citizens are supposed to be leading this process. So in my own thought process on this settlement, are you saying that if we proceeded with the existing plan, the $20 million plan, I'm just going to throw that out there, that we would not have to go to the Lowe's anyway, or we would have to go to the Lowe's anyway?
We would have to go to all the property owners that we currently have easements, because again, if there's no concurrence to allow us to reconstruct that trail using those easements, then permitting agencies will not permit this project to move forward.
So the way that I'm understanding it is that the downside for this, there's not a lot, the upside is saving a lot of money. The downside doesn't say we can't do it. The Lowe's can definitely do this, they're going to have to be confronted anyway by presumably citizens, the public. And
Yeah.
so I'm not seeing where there's a lot of, I'm trying to understand this, but where there's a lot of downside of agreeing to this.
Yeah, it would be a matter of going back to private property owners and re-engaging them through an easement process, and maybe it's a city thing. Maybe they have something against the city. I really don't know, but maybe a private entity would have better luck going forward in getting easements acquired for that section to put back together. But I really can't answer the concerns other than what we have in front of us.
Mr. Moore.
Just a point of clarification to Mr. Knobtrop, my colleague, is that what you were asking? Like, if we agree to this, could private groups go and try to do
Talk
a
to the
full
Lowe's?
court press? And, okay, I just wanted to understand your question.
Yep.
Thank you.
And if I can jump in with one more thought, nothing in this would prohibit or preclude the Lowe's from granting another or different easement to anyone else in the future, whether it's the city or anybody else. And I think that might be what you're getting at. This would relinquish and terminate the existing easements. And I'm certainly will not speak to whether they'd have any interest in ever, participating in that, but it would not legally preclude them from doing so.
Ms. Walker.
I have a question, because one of the, in part of this settlement and the agreement and the release here is said that the Lowe's were saying that the city of Petoskey has not maintained our easement. So they're accusing us of not being good faith partners and not maintaining that easement post sloughing off into the lake. So maybe they would be willing to work with a private entity versus a public entity in the future. Feels like they're tired of looking at ugly.
As we are as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other discussions? I have a motion and a second. We have discussion. I will then include public on this discussion. Yes.
Respectfully, I think my reading of our council procedures allows for hearing from the audience, even if there isn't a motion. I know that's parliamentary procedure that you're following.
Right.
But I think as I read them at least, that we could hear from folks before a motion. I, of course, defer to you.
Council, do you have other discussions you wish to have on this? No motions?
So you know, I understood and I hear what you're saying. I'm always questioning the process. How we've been doing things before we have public comment is before they can comment on anything, we gotta have something for them to. And it seems to me that the agenda item is this settlement. It seemed like we need to get the motion made and then vote on it or not vote on it, but then hear the comment. But that's what we've done in the past. Do I have a motion? Pardon me? Was that a motion? Yeah, I have no problem making the motion to get it out there. There's been a lot of effort done, a lot of discussions done. Our city council or our attorney did what she needed to do. You know, I have some feelings about it, but I feel like we ought to get it out there and make the motion. So yes, I'd like to make the motion.
Do I have a second?
What is the motion?
To accept the settlement agreement as presented by council,
To council.
to council.
Anybody else have a second to this?
I'll second it for purposes of discussion.
Very good. Any other discussion, council? I go to the public. If you wish to speak to council, please step up. Full name. Address council, not the audience, and you have an opportunity.
Get the people here first.
Yes.
I want to say that.
We'll be doing the people in the audience first, then followed by the people online. You will all have a chance to speak.
Maggie Crom, Ward 1 Representative. Thank you all for doing your job. A lot of things here that were interesting to me tonight, but I did come specifically for the Wheelway discussion. I believe that earning those easements in the first place took a lot of time and effort, and getting them back would take even more time and effort. And I would discourage you from letting go of that too easily. I think it is a gem of our community and the entire state, that a wheelway going across the beautiful lakes would be losing that. And we already have for a significant amount of time, but losing it in perpetuity would be a mistake. And bringing people to our community to enjoy nature with little impact that they can enjoy, you know, versus all the other things we were talking about tonight that have a big impact in our community. Cyclists, walkers, enjoying on the wheelway would have a little impact to our beautiful area, but bring a big impact monetarily with more visitors and all the other things that they would bring. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to council? Sir. Back here. He had his hand up first.
I'm Davis LaBelle from Ward 3, address 343 Monroe Street. First, I'm going to acknowledge my bias. I'm a big cyclist, so get right out there and say that. But I'm more of a trail user than like pavement. But I do recognize that this is a big economic driver for our region, as it is for Traverse City, Harbor Springs, Boyne City, many of our neighbors. And I'm no expert, I'm not an attorney, so don't take my legal advice, but I do real estate by trade, commercial and residential. I did review the easement agreement, and it doesn't look like there's any contingencies in it. So from my understanding, I don't know that the city of Petoskey had to do anything in order to maintain that easement. And then as far as suit brought against them for not maintaining it, my thought is this is a classic case of force majeure or an act of God, something that's out of the city's control. So if the city's decision down the road is to not move forward with the plan to redevelop the wheelway, it's kind of a moot point. But if we're closing that door, I don't think it should be because a resident strong arms us into it. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Brett.
Good evening, Brent Bolin, Executive Director, Top of Michigan Trails Council and resident of Ward 1. So it wasn't so long ago, the last time I was standing here talking to you guys about restoring this section of trail. It's just November 6th, and this lawsuit is only about 2 months older than that. And so, again, I'm also not a lawyer, but this would be world record time, I think, for settling litigation. So I'm a little curious as to what the rush here is. I also couldn't help but noticing that, of course, this was discussed in closed session as is appropriate, privileged attorney-client communications, but the disposition of this litigation is the city releasing an extremely valuable public recreational asset. So I think that the public is entitled to a fairly detailed explanation of why you think this is the way to go, and more than what has been offered tonight within the limits of whatever you deem to be attorney-client privileges. I also couldn't help but notice recently, there's been a lot of discussion about the public process or lack thereof regarding the plan at the Winter Sports Park. And I would just like to point out that there has been no public process on this decision. When I stood here November 6th, we agreed that the city was going to look at alternatives on US 31, and a public fundraising campaign would continue to look at restoring the original trail. I have to disagree. If this easement is released, you go from having something, a tangible property right, to having nothing. Having nothing is a very hard position to negotiate from. And if the city, by releasing this easement, has essentially backed out of restoring the actual wheelway as a partner, how can I, on behalf of the Trails Council, negotiate with individual homeowners to build an easement or to gain an easement and build a project that I don't have the right to build? So what you're deciding tonight is that this is not going to happen. So just so everybody's clear, despite whatever legalese there might be, this is a yes or no on restoring the trail. Not very long ago, you said you were still in favor of it. And I understand things change, but this lawsuit was on the table at the end of August. So this was a known situation. And so someone from council asked to estimate the value or the cost of litigation. I wonder what is the value of the easement that the city is giving up? Just if we're going to compare costs, that's a right that is being given up by the city. And I think if we want to have robust public processes around public spaces, as was discussed for the Winter Sports Park, you all were here the night of the public meeting when on the restoration plan, when this room was filled and the overflow room was filled. Look at how many people are here at 8:45 with very short notice of this meeting. So I think this is not representative of the interest the community has shown in this project. And I'm not sure what the rush to go ahead with this today is. What is so pressing about resolving this litigation right now without having a public conversation about this? I also have any number of other questions that I think have not been addressed, including, what potential liability is being avoided. I think, and this was referenced by another speaker, what kind of precedent does this set for our parks and public spaces? Right? How are we treating the property and the places that you all hold in trust for the residents of this community? If, one homeowner can extinguish something like this, okay? And then I also just wondered, and again, I guess this is your problem, not mine, but has Emmett County been consulted about this? Because they purchased property using DNR trust fund grants with the understanding that purchasing property with DNR trust fund grants requires making that public property open for access in perpetuity. The easement that the city holds is the access to that property. So depending on where you decide to cut off the existing trail, which is another question I have, you will be removing potentially the public access to the parcel of land that the county owns, and they have a commitment with the state regarding that. So again, this is potentially large ramifications for future county funding from the DNR trust fund. If they were to violate that agreement, they would essentially not be able to receive those trust fund dollars ever again for anything. So I would hope that you would talk to them about this. And then I think, sure, we could talk about reconnecting the trail along US 31, but again, where is the existing trail going to end? Where are you going to tear it up? How are you going to stop people from going there? If we've seen anything over these few years, it's that people will go past whatever fences. If Kendall was here, he'd tell you. He put up 8 fences. People went around all of them, okay? So if you're going to have essentially a dead end at 2 end sides of this trail from where it existed, right? Like there's a lot of questions I think that need to be addressed before this decision is move forward. So, it's been 6 years since the washout. We can't take 1 or 2 more meetings to have a conversation about this. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Sir.
Good evening. My name is Tim Dykstra. I live in Harbor Springs. I thought it was just a couple comments and one question for you. I thought it was interesting that when we were having this wonderful discussion of awards that we were issuing from the police department earlier this evening, 2 of the rewards had to do directly with activity on cycling trails. Very important, I think, for us to realize. I have just one question I'd like to ask of you folks as you consider these very significant questions tonight. And my question is this: is it appropriate for the interest of a single property owner to supersede those of thousands of people who provide the Petoskey region with tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of economic development and activity? Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to council at this time?
Emily Meyerson, 520 Cherry Street, Ward 2. I look around and the city attorney, and city manager, and all of you, none of you were part of this project when it got put together. I'm the only one in the room that was. I made the first map of every easement that was needed along that corridor. I worked with city staff, I worked with county staff, I worked with township staff. It isn't one letter sending out to residents and think they'll come back. It's lots of meetings, lots of time. To create that corridor took thousands of hours and lots of dollars. So Tina, asking about one amount for a lawsuit doesn't take back what someone else said of how much money this corridor has brought to the community and how much money has already been spent and would be wasted. The only corridor connection we have between Bay Harbor and the city of Petoskey is this corridor, and you're gonna break it off. You're gonna take it away. And you don't ever give easements up. I mean, that's part of it. So I don't think it's a good idea. I've heard talk about a trail up above, but I've seen no plans for it. You don't have a clear corridor there. You don't have clear right of way. I know I've built trails. There's lots of limitations related to things like cemeteries that don't allow, you can't put a trail through there with public funds. There's lots of limitations. You have this corridor. I agree with what we've heard already about the economic impacts, about the fact that the public really didn't have time to respond to this. And it just makes me sad that you would think about giving it up in just one swell swoop after 30 years. 30 years of time has gone into this. This has been gone for 6 years. It's a transportation corridor as well. If a road got taken out, do you think we'd still be talking about it? It would be rebuilt. So I just really, please don't do this. And then I do have one question I was thinking about when I heard other people talk, is I thought that, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe an easement's different, but that it has to go to a vote of the public to get rid of recreation lands. So how do you just get rid of this through a lawsuit? Doesn't it have to go to the vote of the public? And I don't know that answer because this is an easement, but it's just a question. Thank you.
City Attorney, could you answer any of those questions that were posed?
I'll start with the question about access to a county parcel. And I'll say I don't know much about that, except that the easements are limited to non-motorized use of the trail. So I'm not sure how they could be used as access to another parcel, presuming that means something other than people walking on the trail. I'm pulling up your charter to address the second question as well. And I could,
Excuse me, no, let her, we're listening to City Attorney.
Yeah.
One person speaks. Continue, Laura.
All right, thank you. And then I'm just pulling up a section of your charter. Actually, if you want to go to one other, you have more public comment, I know, online, and come back to me, that would be helpful.
Okay. You was just, sir. We'll go through everybody first and then a second round possibly. Sir.
Hello, I'm Cameron Chupp. I live at 210 Wesley Street. I am very concerned about this vote because I've lived in Petoskey for 3 years as of tomorrow, and I have not got to ride this part of the trail on my bicycle, and I don't drive in the summer because it's so wonderful to bike here. And I've been eagerly awaiting for the rebuilding of this the entire time I've lived here. And I do not think that the private property owners will be very kind to us if we have to reevaluate these easements. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager Horn, is it correct that if we did this project as given, we would have to go through every one of these property owners with a signature of an agreement for an update on an easement?
Yeah, as I said before, there would need to be some concurrence of property owners. Yes, not just one, but.
Sir.
Spencer Lindenberg. I live in Bear Creek Township. And just a thought, I wasn't sure if eminent domain has been considered being pursued for any of this, parcel that is just a very valuable parcel to public recreation, to the greater good. And then having, potentially a small group of landowners be able to kind of put their wishes on what they want to have happen with these parcels, with these easements. Just seems like a very poor use of the property, not its highest and best use, in my opinion. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would speak to council? How about online? We have hands up.
There's several, so I'm just gonna go based on how I saw the hands raised, if you're okay with that, Mayor?
Yes, please.
So the first one is Christian Jansen's, if he is still wanting to. Christian, were you still interested in speaking? So he muted himself. I'm assuming he's not interested. The next was Christopher Waltz.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Christopher Waltz, 614 Grove Street, Ward 2. I have a couple comments and I think there needs to be some clarification also. So I do a little bit of work in easements, and my understanding is you guys have the easement, and giving up the rights to that easement is gone, and you will never get it back you'd have to get every single homeowner, landowner, property owner along that path to re-sign the section of easement that you're talking about giving up because of this one lawsuit. The clarification that I think needs to be made is with the permitting agencies for the project, the $20 million project, they are asking for homeowner input, basically. It's not, if you don't get anyone, they won't approve it. They still would have to talk about that, is my understanding. Whereas easements, you need everyone to sign off on that easement. So I wouldn't say the plan's necessarily dead because there hasn't been response. I'd also like to know what type of inquiries and outreach has been made to those property owners. Has it just been an email? Have people gone to actually talk to them? That's just another question. And I'd like to just kind of end my comments that I've moved up here about 6 years ago. I've never had the opportunity to use this section of trail. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to move up here and start a family. And you guys are talking about getting rid of it, essentially that section, by getting rid of the easement that you currently have the right to do work within, because that easement has already been established. And that would be a shame to lose that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next is,
So you want to call them out, Mayor, or want me to still go down the list as
go
they
down the
appeared?
list. I see Scott Patalo.
Yeah, but there's people that actually chatted first. So
Okay.
the next one, it was Mr. Lowe.
Okay. Dr. Lowe?
Hi, John. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Sarah. Just very briefly. So, for notification, my wife and I are the parties to the lawsuit, and this this has already gone long into the night. So I'll be very brief. The issue here, I think, is being misunderstood. In order to proceed with repairing the trail, which is probably a $20 to $30 million project, there have to be new easements. The repair plan includes getting additional land on easements, and they'd have to go to a number of different property owners and get a much wider swath of easement going all the way down to the waterfront. And what the city and county found when they started asking about this is that there was very low interest in giving these additional easements. By the way, our property was not one of the ones that need an additional easement, but there are other properties that do. And so it's not simply a matter of going along the same path that exists, which, if it could be done, it probably would be planned that way, but it can't be done. And that's one of the reasons the trail has fallen apart, is that it can't be done in the way it was done before and still survive the vicissitudes of northern Michigan weather. So more easements have to be obtained, because we feel that it's very, very unlikely that those are going to be obtained. And because we feel that funding is very unlikely to be obtained at that level, we decided to try to get our property back, because as Ms. Walker said, we're tired of looking at ugly. There are security issues, there are safety issues, there are ugly issues, and it hasn't been maintained. And we're really not angry at anybody about it, because it's a very low priority when it's closed. So really, we want our property back for now. And as the city attorney stated, this does not rule out coming back at some other time and asking for those additional easements from all those other people and from us for the same easement that we granted before. It doesn't rule that out at all. But right now, we just don't feel there's a credible plan. or a pathway forward for this to happen anytime soon. It has been 6 years. 6 years out of the public eye, it might not seem a very long time. 6 years when you're living with it every single day and you're wondering whether it's ever going to change, that's a long time. And we decided that we'd really like to do something with that property now, or as soon as possible to now. And again, it doesn't rule out what might happen in the future. We enjoyed that trail every single day, more than almost anybody, because we were able to use it every single day. And we're real sorry that it's gone. But that doesn't help us right now, and it hasn't helped us for the last 6 years. Thanks.
Thank you for your time. Anyone else next on the list?
Yep, I'm going to go to Christian Jansen. He was having technical difficulty. Christian, you're unmuted. And he muted. So we're going to move on to Scott Patullo.
Scott Patullo.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So I live on Townsend Road. I'm not a resident of Petoskey. I live on Townsend Road, above Bay Harbor. But I have ridden the Wheelway on my bike into town countless times. And I have driven countless times along the road and watched the people ride their bikes along that, what I consider to be completely unacceptable bike path. And the one thing that sort of hasn't been said here tonight, it probably was said at some of the prior meetings back in November, which I did not see, but it is inevitable that someone is going to not be focused, driving that curve by Epler Road, and they're going to kill some young kids on their bikes. It's inevitable. And then I will watch the Petoskey City Council meeting after that with the hand wringing that will say, wow, we should have done something about that. And I've read the engineering reports. I realize it's a gigantic investment to fix the mess that's there. And I'm certainly not going to opine on that. But the current situation, to me, every time I drive down there is completely unacceptable. When I see a young child precariously riding along, they can weave out from those silly little plastic, barriers that you have there. And so no one's made that comment, what the cost of that is. And I would argue it's pretty substantial. And then the other comment I would make, which also kind of hasn't been made, is my understanding that when these easements were built to make the Wheelway, that the property that the Lowe's owned was actually bought by the county for a substantial price. And then the easement was attached to it and sold to the Lowe's at a discount. So the Lowe's never granted that easement, as I understand it. They bought that property with the easement, knowing full well what they were buying. And so there's an there's a price tag of what that easement is worth, and you can look at the difference between what the county paid for it versus what the Lowe's paid for it. In any case, I'm sympathetic to the property owners there. I really am, and the fact that nothing's been done, and I don't want to paint them as bad people. I'm sure they're good people, and they were good enough people to allow the easement in the first place. I just think that there will be a tremendous price paid for inaction on this bicycle path, and there will come a time, it maybe not be this council, but it'll be a different council. And they will say, oh my gosh, we should have done something to fix this situation. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Continue on, Sarah.
Someone by the name of Resident.
This is Jim McLean again.
Yep.
And it's really great to hear both sides of it. And I appreciate Dr. Lowe's comments about it as well. And I don't have the backstory of property ownership, whatever. But it seems like we're all wanting for this to happen. We've all enjoyed it. We all see a future of having it. And I would really encourage the council to think long-term. Think of the long end game of what we have today and what we want to create in the future. And I think if we just make this short-term decision, and I realize that 6 years has been a long time for property owners to look at this, but I do think that there is a path forward where we can all work together to get this thing done and to reinstate the wheelway. It doesn't have to be us or them or get sides together. I think that we need to work together and actually reinstate it because everybody enjoyed it. You hear it all the time. And it is an economic driver for the area. And it's a great asset for all the residents and the resorters as well. So I just encourage everyone to just keep working together, keep sharing information, and really keep an eye on the long game.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I see no other hands or comments.
Emily
Online.
Myerson. Emily Myerson, you raised your hand to speak.
Oh, sorry, I was just trying, the attorney asked if it had to do with access to the property, and I was trying to explain that it is pedestrian access because it's recreation land, so that's what it was being referred to. Is that correct? That was all.
This is Laura. I couldn't hear that comment very well. Could someone summarize it for me, or could she speak in the microphone?
I'm going to have her come and speak up to the mic.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. I was just trying to say the access that Brent was referring to recreation lands, it's recreation land, so it's not vehicle access. It is pedestrian access. That was all. It was just to clarify.
Yeah, I always speak to what the easements say, which makes it very clear it's solely for the non-motorized passage by the public, walking, roller skating, etc. So I can't speak to what the county has or hasn't relied on. I can address the charter question. I just wanted to pull up the language, and that would not apply here. Section 1.4 of the charter provides that all public grounds used for park purposes shall be inalienable, and in no event shall the city council sell, lease, encumber, trade, or divert to another public use any public park grounds without first securing the approval of a majority of the voters of the city voting on the question in any general or special election. I see nothing in the charter about recreation generally or trails. I don't believe a non-motorized trail is the same as a park. Really, you can't do any of the things that you do at a park. And I've had a few other cases in other cities with similar charter provisions that really focus on the dedication and use of publicly owned land as a park. And I don't think this fits here. If it's something council wants more of an analysis on, of course, I'm happy to do that. Same with any of the issues that the public has raised. But just reading the charter language, I don't believe that a non-motorized passage is a park.
Thank you. You want to speak? Yes, you.
Maggie Crum, Ward 1 resident. I don't know the definition of a park legally, but I would say as a whole, that was a huge park that thousands of us used on a regular basis, and we recreated on it all the time. I'm a over 30-year resident, and I love that trail. Thank you.
Mr. Knobtrop.
I made the motion, so I wanted to, are we done talking?
I'm called on you.
So I love the trail too. I've been here a long time too, not as long as all you guys. it is an amazing thing. I think the public safety issue is also probably the most important thing. And I'm getting a little confused, but I think we have to be very committed to getting it off of the 31, all that risk. Everybody, you know, I have my grandchildren, all of, you have, oh, there's a squirrel over there, and you kind of weave over and all of a sudden you're there. So I get all that. But I've heard enough tonight that I'm a little, based on where I was going with this, I heard enough tonight that I'd like to have a little bit more time to get 100% clarity on the implications of proceeding with this project, because there is no question that I understood that we could not proceed regardless without getting a lot more easements. So I'd like to withdraw my, my motion until I get 100% clarity on the permitting requirements and the legal issues around that.
Mr. Moore.
Yeah, and as I stated when I made my second, it was for purposes of hearing from all of you. So it was my intent to withdraw that as well, to allow the opportunity for more fulsome public input, but I didn't want to do that till everybody was done talking.
Right. Process that we've had for, all these years, so if we want to change it, then I guess when we do process and procedures, we can change process, but Ms. Walker,
No comment, Mayor.
well, you have no.
It was just a
okay.
sigh of relief.
Okay. Well, everybody's had, everybody has spoke, you spoke twice, you spoke twice. Have you spoke twice? I'll give you one more time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just have, this is maybe a clarifying question for all of you to think about and for the city attorney to consider. I'm certainly not going to try to, debate the meaning of park under either common understanding or as it's been interpreted by courts in the state of Michigan. I do think it's fair to point out that a great deal of recreation occurs on the easement in question. But here's where I think you run into an issue, right? So I'm looking right now at the map, okay? The city owns a parcel numbered 200-009 that bisects the like Pine Bluff Condo Association property. The trail runs along there, right? So, and then after that, it runs onto a parcel of county-owned property, then city-owned, then county-owned, and then eventually you get to the private property. Okay, so here's the question. If releasing this easement doesn't meet the charter definition of a park or whatever, that's fine. What about the parcel of land 200-009 that the city owns and that the trail runs on now? Is that a park? If you stopped running the trail there, would you have to have a public conversation about that? Or could you pull up the trail there and close access to that? These are the kinds of issues that I think, that's what I mean when I say how you do this is complicated, because there's complicated ownership and legal questions related to the property rights governing the various public and private ownership stakes along here. So if we're going to be taking time to gain a little bit more information, I just wanted to share that I thought that's something that should perhaps be clarified. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's obvious you guys want, everybody here wants more information. I'm totally in favor of, I wish this park was built.
Park, it's a park. That's very clear.
He just said it. But he said.
Whatever I called it, I made a mistake. Wheelway, excuse me, the wheelway, but it is not a park. We have been through easements and stuff like this when we had the People's Park down there. I've been through a whole bunch of this with the city attorney at the time and what is and what isn't a park. This is not a park, as far as I can understand. Am I right, Laura?
That's my opinion, correct? It is not a park.
So.
What would you need to make it park?
Well, first, let's also focus that it's public grounds, and you know, like I said, I'll provide whatever additional research and analysis can help council. Our goal is always to get the most information and obviously the most accurate information. But when we're talking about public grounds used as a park, that denotes more than simply an easement over private property that people can cross. The city does not own fee title to this, and the easement it's drafted contemplates that it can be relinquished. When the city entered into the easement, it's not permanent in that sense that it could never be undone. It's not conveying fee title. It is conveying an easement for a very limited purpose.
For a wheelway. So, we can convene this in 2 weeks. Discussion, or in a month. Laura, give me feedback on where it stands with the negotiations, et cetera, that are there right now with Dr. Lowe and
Sure.
Courtney.
We have mediation, ironically enough, since we're here talking about settlement, but we have mediation scheduled for April 14th. Our mediation briefs are due April 7th. So I'd like to have another council meeting before that on it. So I'm fine coming back in 2 weeks. It doesn't mean you have to make a decision that night. But whenever you want to put it on the agenda, I'll be prepared to talk about it.
And the cost?
Sorry?
Your cost to doing this?
Oh.
What does it look like if we go to mediation? All of this negotiations, what is the city looking at for funding cost?
Right, so with mediation, typically, and I'd have to look back at our agreement, but generally the parties split the hourly cost of the mediator. So you're paying my fee and half of the mediator's hourly fee. The mediator probably charges more than I do. And then generally those are meant several hours. I was on a mediation today that was 3.5 hours, but you know, this one could, I don't know how long it could be. So, and there's prep involved. We have to draft a mediation statement.
Along with your fees? On top
I'm sorry?
of that, along with your fees on top of that.
Correct, yes.
You know, Ms. Demore, you want to speak?
Laura, are there any time constraints on the current offer of settlement?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. What I will ask, city manager. Really, if you, council, if you're okay with waiting until after April and they have negotiations with Dr. Lowe and Courtney, if that's what you feel you want to wait until to make any decisions, I suggest that, if that's where you're headed, yes.
I don't disagree with that, Mayor. Mine is more fundamental, a little bit beyond that too. Mine is getting complete clarity on what is needed to do this project in terms of the easements. And I hear it, you know, I hear what Dr. Lowe said, and Dr. Lowe, by the way, I give you a lot of courage and credit for showing up. You're a great guy. And I appreciate that. And I know you're being sincere, but I'm just getting a little bit of conflicting information as to what is legally required on these, on getting these other permits, and have we done enough work to get the interest? And that's, I'd like to understand that a little bit more in addition to this whole mediation process.
Okay.
If I can add one comment on the mediation, and I'll defer obviously to what you want to do, but we need to have direction from council going into that mediation, or else it's not going to be a good use of your money. Because obviously the entirety of council cannot be in mediation. So as of now, we have it scheduled for Shane to be there as sort of a city representative, and then with some direction from council, and then whatever, if an agreement were to come out of mediation, then that would come back to city council exactly in the manner, I don't know what, you know, might be different terms, but right, it would be a settlement agreement in your package, just like what we've done here. So I guess my only concern on tabling this till after mediation is mediation may not be very productive.
I don't see it as very productive myself. Mr. Moore, you have something?
Well, my question would just be, when I'm looking at the settlement in front of us right now, since it's an extinguishment of the easement with no monies paid in association with that, the only outcome of a mediation that I can think of that would be superior would be if the Lowe's agreed to drop the lawsuit. Am I wrong in that thinking?
I'm trying to think of if there is any other creative middle ground, and I frankly haven't given much thought to that, but I think generally your point is well taken. Meaning, right, there's no money being paid as part of this. Typically in a mediation, one of the things you're arguing about is how much money is going to be paid.
Mr. Wilmot?
I agree with my colleague, Mr. Notraub, in terms of wanting to have a much more comprehensive understanding definitively on what's involved with the easements. But I'd actually like to take it further than that and say, what's the plan for moving forward in terms of repair of the trail itself? Is this going to be a private fundraising plan? And if so, who's going to handle it? What's the plan? We're just kind of spinning our wheels on this issue of easement, but I'd like to know, how do we move it forward? And if there are contributions from the private sector for that, I'd like to hear those contributions as well, because $20 million is a lot of money. And if we're going to spend $100,000 defending a lawsuit, we ought to know that there is an objective, comprehensive plan for how to move forward. And until that time, we're just wasting more time.
And money. My concern is that 20 million or 19 million last summer, basically, was, if it was all gonna be bought and all the material and everything was all set to go last summer, they told me. Well, we're now another summer. That thing is gonna cost 25 million, something like that, by the time it even gets started. The city, if the city were to say, we're going to fund $10 million of it, and everybody else is gonna support 15 million, it's gonna cost us 20 years at $750,000, $700,000 a year. I don't know where the city is going to get $700,000 a year for 15, 20 years to help pay for this bicycle path when it's only going to cover 10 million out of the 25 million. I have real concerns about where's the money coming from? And the longer we wait, to me, if this lakefront is not gonna work, spend the exercise, the money, start looking at putting it up on the highway area. I feel the safety of it. I just cringe every time I drive to Charlevoix and I see somebody out there riding the bike, looking around, and it's like, oh my God, please don't let me hit them, or don't let them pull out in front of my car. Safety is supposed to be the number one thing for the city, and that's why the number one department in the city is public safety. And I think we need to start looking at, is there somebody agency or group gonna step up and say, we're gonna start the thing on 25 million and we will get you 25 million. Otherwise, I think we need to start evaluating what, as Mr. Wilmot said, what is the end? What is the end? Mr. Wilmot.
Yeah, for clarity, my understanding is the city is moving forward and will be looking at engineering contracts specifically related to a building across the swale at the bottom of Epler Curve to get the trail on a bridge outside of the bike path. That is happening, and that is addressing the public safety issue. That doesn't mean that two things can't be true at the same time. That doesn't mean that the city is against restoring the existing bike path. It just means we don't want any deaths. And we want to advance that as quickly as possible, because even if we had the $20 million and decided to advance it today, it'd be a couple of years before before the bike path could be repaired, and people are at risk in the meantime. But we appear to be moving forward with that anyway. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager? So that, if that's established, the question is, the alternative to the highway is rebuilding the bike path. What's the plan? We're talking about easements, but easements are a small part of the plan. How are we going to accomplish it? And in detail, where's the money going to come from? Who's going to get it? And that's not necessarily a conversation for tonight, but some answers I would be looking forward to finding.
I can tell you that I talked to DeMoose, and he told me you guys will be lucky to get $1 million because we don't have that, we are not giving that kind of money out towards recreational processes. Housing, yes. Recreation, no. And that's what the feedback I got from them when I've talked to Fairburn as well. Brett, you wish to speak?
I'm a little confused about the direction of the conversation just now. When we talked about this November 6th, you guys said, Trails Council, you should take charge of this and go raise money. The city supports you. And I said, we need a supportive and engaged city to be able to go forward and do this. So we have been making plans to do this. I found out today that you guys are giving up the easement we need to build the trail. Okay, so that's the plan. We were working on it. And I found out today that you guys were taking away the easement that we need to do the project. So if the city is not a willing partner, I could raise $100 million and it wouldn't matter because I can't go build it, okay? So it takes two to tango here. On November 6th, I thought we were tangoing. I found out today we are not. So that's where things stand.
What's the timeline for this? For 25 million, 20 million, what is your plan for 20 million?
Okay, well, so right now we're talking about saving a few $1,000s on the cost of going to mediation in April. We're sweating that, and you're up here asking me when I'm gonna be able to produce $25 million? I mean, you guys, it's like, this is definitely going to take time. The US 31 reroute, I promise you, is gonna take more time and money than you think it is, and you're gonna build something, it'll be cheaper, but it's not gonna be the thing anybody wants. But my point is, there has been communication between the Trails Council and the city for years about this project. Since November 6th, there has not been communication. And now we have been putting some things in place, having conversations, doing outreach, starting to plan this campaign, and found out today that the city wanted to relinquish the easement. So that's where things stand.
Mr. Wilmot.
Well, perhaps we could arrange for a better understanding of what the Trails Council plan is by the time the next meeting comes up, so that we have a better understanding of how in detail they wish to proceed. Because a partnership like that could be very valuable, because it's going to take a lot of people and a lot of hands to come up with $25 million and get this done. So if what we're talking about is a public-private partnership, I'd certainly love to hear the details of that plan.
Mr. Knobtrop.
You know, I'm getting more and more frustrated myself here at this conversation. I think it's a little unfair to say the city doesn't want to support the Wheelway. The city has spent a lot of money on this. There has been a lot of effort. And I sat through these meetings too, and I see a $20 million project after we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for this thing. We're having the Eagle grants. And I go right back to the fact that we all sit around, we want more time. It's all baloney. I mean, it's baloney to me. We need to get this, the highway fixed for safety. I don't care what you guys, I want the Miracle Mile too. I understand that this settlement, and again, if I'm wrong, I understand it doesn't mean one thing whether we give up. I don't want to give up easements either. But I also don't want to just keep spending money on something that's not going to get us any result. And I understood that we're not gonna get, whether we settle with this or fight it, it's not gonna get us a darn thing. And I'm worried about $20 million, and I have heard crickets also about what the plan is in November. I don't know if there's been any updates. I have had no word is, yep, you know, that meeting was good. We've got $15 million, or here's what we're doing. I don't know any of that. All I know is I don't want my grandkids or anybody else's to get killed and someone to sit here and say, well, the council should have been doing something about it. Well, the council did. You guys, the public, are supposed to be getting a plan together. In the meantime, what do we do? And I take objection to this, is if I do.
Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I appreciate what Mr. Nachtrab is saying. We find ourselves here tonight not because of something the city instituted, but because of a lawsuit that was instituted against the city. It was very interesting tonight, and I certainly defer to the record. But Dr. Lowe this evening said he doesn't rule out coming back. He doesn't rule out going forward. But for now, it doesn't work for them. And I think that's really important to put into this pocket of consideration as well. Thank you.
Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. As always, good public discourse. I really appreciate this. It's been my position here on city council that the city has really put their neck out on the line on this project since the sloughing into the lake due to a force of nature, climate change, whatever, high rain inundation, waves coming in from the bay. And so once again, like Brett had outlined, it's city, it's behind Pine Bluff Condo, it's county, it's city, it's county, it's private. Like, where is the other public entities and partners in this? Like, we've had no coming together with the county on figuring out that everybody was at the table during the DNR trust fund monies and the easements being granted in the construction of this bike path, but like, where do these other entities sit now, and why is it all on us? And has been since 2020 when it sloughed off into the lake. So I wonder about those other entities coming to the table to be partners in this strategy beyond the public and the Trails Council.
So giving Shane directives and Laura, city attorney, what do you wish for them to do for the next meeting or the 2 meetings or in April? Please come up with something. Mr. Moore.
I just have a question for Laura. Laura, is the mediation court ordered, or is it arranged by the parties in this instance?
So we arrange it, but the court requires us to participate. It was referred to mediation, I think would be the correct way to put that.
So I'm not suggesting this at this point, but if you thought it was wise, given timelines or whatever, to adjourn it to a later date, that would be a possibility.
The Lowe's would have to agree to that, and it does take, the mediators book about, 4 to 6 months out. So we booked this many months ago. So it's a possibility. Extending deadlines is a possibility. Again, it just has to be mutual. So the Lowe's would have to agree to that.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not recommending it. I'm just understanding the lay of the land.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Lowe, can you extend this for a little bit? I know that's awkward to do, but if that's the only way, otherwise we need to keep moving.
And I don't know that we can ask him, wait, I don't think we can ask him to commit to that without talking to his lawyer. I'm not comfortable with that.
No. What are you asking for the city attorney and for Laura to produce for the next meeting or two meetings from now? Mr. Wilmot.
My request for the city would be to prepare a fresh presentation about the limitations and the easement situation through the entirety of the area that would need to be reconstructed, and be able to provide council with more detailed information on that. But as far as the overall plan for the development is concerned, that would have to come from a combination of the Trails Council and/or any other public or private party that wanted to participate in this. And I do think that another thing the city could do is reach out to the surrounding jurisdictions and find out whether they're willing to participate in a group conversation about the future of funding the bike path restoration. So as far as the city manager is concerned, I don't have anything for the city attorney, but as far as the city manager is concerned, it would seem to me that we need more clarity on the limitations that we're facing administratively with regard to easements and/or operational concerns that they feel going forward with this plan. And then the rest of it is bringing other partners in. And if no other partners show up, or if they don't have a cogent plan, then we'll have clarity.
Mr. Moore.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Really? Wow, okay. I agree. All right. Ms. Walker, you have your hand up.
Could we explore, could we explore possibilities of eminent domain and a millage to pay for this?
Pay for the.
Laura, eminent domain does not fall into this area, does it at all?
We would probably want to do some analysis on that. I know we've had some discussions with council on the role of condemnation, eminent domain proceedings. So we'd have to look at that. And when you say fund this, you mean the railway and not the lawsuit, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So, our next meeting or thereafter. Shane, do you have any questions for council?
It may not be the next meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll be able to pull that together, likely getting Baird back involved. But
Okay.
we can do.
All right. Mr. Moore,
And just for the record, I'm absent on the meeting following the next meeting, which is April 6th, which is the meeting we usually don't have, but we're having. So
and I'm asking council, after this, we'll get there, wrap up here. So are you good to go? You can send to city council for individual responses if you wish to gather more information from them. That would work.
What I'm gathering, and council, you can, correct me if I'm wrong, is that I should reach out to the Lowe's council about adjourning mediation, but if it's not adjourned, we will proceed, or are we just going forward with it? Where are we at?
Not if it's, I don't know, Ms. Demore,
Laura, if we have, is our next meeting too late for you to undertake that, depending on what our discussions are at the next meeting?
No, if you discuss this in 2 weeks, that's plenty of time. My mediation summary is due April 7th. So even if there were, I know you're not going to be here though, Councilmember Demore. So if it were, even on the agenda, I don't want to belabor your agendas, but up to the 6th, whether it's next meeting or the 6th, I can incorporate that into my mediation statement.
okay.
Thank
We
you.
have some time. I'm going to ask two things. One is we eliminate number 9 this tonight, okay? Push it back. Are you good with that?
Okay. Are we, just for clarity on F, we're tabling that officially, right? Is that?
Yeah. Do you want, yes, yes.
Have a motion. We don't have a motion.
Yeah, could you postpone it to a specific meeting?
Do you need a motion?
Yes, please.
Specific meeting.
I move that we table the matter of Lowe versus Petoskey settlement agreement to the next meeting of the city council.
Or you.
No,
I don't know.
Well, she's not gonna be at the one following.
So what?
we do it in,
Next one.
Well, you have to cancel mediation then.
we will do the meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay.
If we table, if we decide that that's not where we're going with it, it ends up then a month push.
Well, if we just table it till the next one, we can table it again if we need to. We'll have March 16th.
Okay, everybody good with the motion then?
But I said,
I support.
Motion from Mr. Moore, second from Mr. Wilmot. Any other discussion? Public wish to weigh in on this? I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Demore,
Aye.
Wilmot,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Nachtrab,
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Number 9, discussing policies and procedures. We'll postpone that to the next month. Don't need a motion on that. The other thing I'd like to talk about is, I think there's things coming up. I talked to city manager on this April 1st meeting. She's, April 6th, she's gonna be gone. Would you wish to postpone it or cancel that meeting at this point?
I'm here, but.
Yeah, from the beginning, I think it's a good practice because the school is closed then, so a lot of people are out of town. The mayor made a good point that people can watch on Zoom. I don't think they're doing that while they're on spring break, so, I mean, to my mind, I think it's a meeting we should not have, but that's just my opinion. Thank you. April 6th.
We can wait until, I would require a motion, and here's why, because we already had a motion to set the schedule for the year, so I need a motion to cancel that meeting. But if you want to wait until next meeting to cancel it, that's fine too.
I could bring a resolution back if you want.
Bring a resolution back next meeting, and they can decide from there. So that answers that. Resolution next. Council comments, Ward 4, Ms. Walker.
Just a reminder that the second and final phase of the Emmett County Master Plan concludes this week. So if you have not submitted your comments on the master plan, including the wheelway, please do so at your earliest convenience. Tell all your friends, because master planning and public input matters.
Mr. Knoptrop, Ward 3.
Nothing to add tonight.
Mr. Wilmot.
Nothing to add tonight.
Mr. Moore.
So just very quickly, thank you, Mia, for hanging in here through this whole meeting, our Youth Advisory Council representative. And just to let my colleagues and the public know, on March 10 and 11 at the Michigan Municipal League's CapCon Conference, to my knowledge, for the first time ever, students are going to be allowed to present to elected officials from throughout the state of Michigan on the issue of getting students engaged in local government. And our own Eliza Roger, who's a junior at the high school, and Anya Peck, also a junior at the high school, are going to be those 2 students able to make that presentation. So very proud of all of you. Thank you.
I tell you that there are going to be about 3 or 4 ribbon cuttings or whatever for art that it will be opened up into the community down at the waterfront. Also by the Dancer Building, Passenger Pigeon. I'll get you those dates as we get closer, starting in June on through to August. So letting you know that. You'll get the dates well ahead of time. No further business to come before this council. I call this meeting adjourned.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah Beck.
Sarah Beck.
Thank you, Sarah.
Chocolate over
You're the best.
there.